Am I not live? I don't know. It says I'm live. Yeah, this dude's a me writer. Major me writer. All right. So the conversation starts at this point, but
So what's the argument that it's logically like? Give me the argument to show that it's logically necessary.
this is it says full unedited discussion, but I mean it's not the full discussion because he was there for a minute before I joined, and then this is like the exact moment I joined. But let's just see what he said. KD, I hope you're still here whenever your boy starts saying crazy things.
Okay, so
But I know you guys' attention span is only lasts like 10 minutes. So
obviously, this is exactly what I was doing with the host. Change exists. Change is the actualization of potential. A potential cannot actualize itself. Therefore, whatever is actualized by something else. This leads to a chain of actualizers, each depending on something else to cause its change in the here and now. An infinite
Wait.
chain of such actualizers
Calm
is
down. You're
impossible.
speaking too fast. What's the inference rule?
For the first one,
Yeah.
modus tollens. For the first argument.
Okay. Can you repeat it?
Argument?
It's like 80 different people talking to me right now.
No, it's not. Can you repeat the argument?
Change exists.
yeah, modus tollens. I mean the argument is not presented formally. You are? What are people talking about, bro? I need to get this chat fully on the screen because I can't see what people are saying. Yeah, I know I am, bro. So I don't even know what they were talking about at this point because I had just joined in and the discussion just randomly starts here. But I'm assuming he's asking, why God can't be changed, or why God can't have accidents or something like that. Why can't he be changed? So yeah, he presents the argument from motion informally, and then they ask for an inference rule. So he says modus tollens, which I mean it can be presented in modus tollens, pretty simply. It's just the fact that he didn't originally give a formal presentation. Screen is cooked on TikTok. Why? Give me a second. Oh my gosh, what the hell happened? Oh, I see what happened. Okay, I see what happened. Okay. Just give it 1 second. Okay, I gotta do this. See, this is the thing about this TikTok studio, bro. It's like so annoying. We have to do this. We have to do this, and then put this here. Move this over. Move this over. Okay, don't worry, guys. We're almost done fixing this. Okay, let me lock in real quick. This is why TikTok is chopped, bro. I'm gonna make this fit the screen. All right. 2 days ago, no, this was a debate that happened like late at night. No one really saw it, but you guys will see what's said, bro. It's crazy.
Change is and by change we mean that change is the actualization of potential. If you guys want me to, I can make it even a longer.
Let's go, bro. Let's see if it's modus tollens. Come on.
Yes, so change exists. Change is the actualization of potential, right? But a potential cannot actualize itself. Only something that is actual can actualize that. Therefore, whatever changes is changed by something else.
That's not modus tollens.
Really, I don't have a P and then the negation of that, P and Q and the negation of that.
Like, why are you out here
Conclusion.
bullshitting though?
How is this BSing, bro?
Is that
Like,
modus tollens really?
bro, like what are we doing
Is
here?
that modus tollens?
Yeah, bro. If P then Q, not P, therefore not Q, right?
Is that what you did,
Like, can we?
Elijah?
Yo,
Like, are we?
what the
Are we
hell?
being serious?
Oh, all right, bro. You're spamming now, so I'm just gonna mute you, bro. All right. I'm not trying to see 18 million laughing emojis on my screen.
Guy.
So he said, if y'all didn't hear him, he said if P then Q, not P, therefore not Q, which isn't modus tollens, because modus tollens would be not Q, therefore not P. But I mean, he just misspoke. And this is the thing when you're debating these pagans, is that when you misspeak, they take it as an opportunity to clown you. I think I messed up the screen again. Gosh. Why does it have to be like this? Maybe I just drag it a little bit back. Okay, I gotta stop touching this. Okay. So yeah, he just misspoke, but obviously they're gonna turn it into a whole thing because they don't have any actual substantive arguments. I'm not at this level to understand. Bro, he's just saying basically, well, modus tollens is an inference rule, so it has to do with the structure of an argument. And for example, the first premise of an argument is if it's raining outside, then the ground is wet, right? And then the second premise of the the second premise of the argument is it's raining outside. So then the conclusion would be the ground is wet. So you see how that first statement and that second statement basically combine to lead to a conclusion? If P, which is P is the first proposition, then Q, the second proposition. P is true, therefore Q is true, right? If it's raining outside, then it's wet outside. It is raining outside, therefore it's wet and the ground is wet outside. And so Elijah, what he did, what he said is technically fallacious, because he said, for example, if it's raining outside, yeah, the screen is not showing anything right now. It's on pause. That's why it's like that. So what Elijah said is if it's raining outside, then the ground is wet outside. It's not raining outside, therefore the ground is not wet outside, which doesn't actually follow, because there could be other reasons why the ground is wet other than the fact that it's raining. Like if someone is watering the garden, right, and they get the grass wet or something. So that's not modus tollens. Modus tollens would be negating the second part of that first statement, which leads to the negation of the first part of that first statement. So modus tollens would be if it's raining outside, then the ground is wet outside. The ground, it's not wet outside, therefore it's not raining outside, right? That one is valid. That one is modus tollens. Elijah, he misspoke. He said the opposite because it's easy to confuse P and Q when you're trying to talk fast. And they're like, oh, modus tollens. Yeah, they just start being weird. Start being children.
احلى ليله احلى
Yeah, no?
ناس
Hey, who's gonna tell bro? Who's gonna tell? Know that, right?
Yeah, yo, Elijah.
See
Oh.
this? These are. You see how they're acting?
How did you not learn this?
Bro,
How have you not learned? Dude,
Wait,
I'm
teammate,
the
can you do that better than me?
Just knocking
I
it.
forgot how range-inducing watching this live was.
Dude, I'm
If
I
I
ain't gonna lie.
misspoke,
Oh my God.
like we
I
can
think you
literally
misspoke when you said you
Oh,
misspoke,
man.
guys.
Can't even
Yeah,
hear
that's
me.
crazy, guys. I ain't gonna lie.
we can just go through it, bro. But like, this isn't a difficult argument to understand.
Elijah,
I mean, it's invalid right now.
Elijah, what's the thing? Can
What's
change
the inference rule?
I know this guy ain't talking about what's invalid and what's valid, because when you see this dude try to argue against atheists, invalid arguments is the only thing he presents. Like, just watch his video with Monkey Boy, bro. Oh my, can I even find? I think I might be able to find this on YouTube. Like, these are the people that's genuinely talking. Mind you, this is the same guy who told me Anas just joined. Elijah's talking like to 4 individuals. This dude is the same guy who's told me that an argument can be invalid, but sound. And now he's out here trying to clown other people when they misspeak. Like, who are these people? But watch this video, and bro has no room to talk about anyone else, bro. It doesn't even. I don't even think it was this one specifically, because this one was a year ago. I feel like the other one was a lot shorter. But I'm sure this one's fine. Whatever.
You said what's the thing that what?
فخر الدين دقيقة ثواني حبيبي. Elijah, what's the inference rules? Now that we know it's not modus tollens, right? So what's the inference rule?
Bro, we can go through the entire argument.
What's the inference
I can
rule?
reject the argument if you don't even give an inference rule. Did you know that?
Yes, obviously.
Okay, so give the inference rule then.
Right, here.
Alright,
You said if something's changed, like you were writing it down. So I'm
Nobody's writing nothing down. I'm just recalling what you're saying to make sure
Okay,
that
well,
I
I
understand.
already repeated the argument the first time, and then you're asking me to repeat it.
You know why? Because you
for a
said
Yo,
it
don't
was
cry, don't
modus
cry, don't cry,
tollens,
don't cry,
and
don't
it's
cry, don't cry.
not. And now make
bro, I forgot how full of mush this debate was. This might be cooked, actually.
Fine, bro.
it's
This
not.
is
It's not
literally-
modus tollens. It's
Bro,
bullshit.
I just gave you a simpler. I just gave you a simple
Why he can't be a mover, but he has intrinsic change.
That's what I'm saying.
an infinite chain of quote unquote movers that does not have actuality in itself is not a mover. Or like, yeah, it's not a mover. You have an infinite chain of quote unquote movers that are both movers and not movers at the same time. That's what I'm saying.
How do you understand that?
Okay, can I give you an analogy to help you
I
understand?
don't get why he can't be a mover, but he has intrinsic change.
That's what I'm saying.
What? Okay, hold on.
What?
They're talking about why can't God be a mover, but he has intrinsic change. And this is why these guys are so dumb and ridiculous. Because then God is not the first mover. Then God is moved by something prior to him. When was this? Did Eli post this? No, he didn't post this. The Muslim posted it.
You guys are
We don't
moving.
just saying what.
You guys are
Just
moving
look,
way
Elijah. This is what I don't
Okay,
like.
you guys are moving too
Instead of giving an argument, instead of like showing why we should be motivated to your Aristotelian garbage, you just go like, what? Like,
No,
look, I know you want to fool your audience in the chat,
He calls it Aristotelian garbage, and then let's see what he ends up saying.
Listen,
but
hold on.
anyone with a
The
brain can
reason-
see
Bro, what
it.
audience? Oh my gosh, I don't got nobody.
Umar, the reason as to why I'm saying what is because first you guys are asking me why an infinite chain of such actualizers is impossible, and then you're asking about why the purely actual being can't have intrinsic change. That's not on topic. That's why I'm saying what. Because like you're literally going off topic right now.
Okay, let's
The
get
whole
then,
entire
let's get.
topic is God having
Exactly.
potency.
Look,
Okay,
it's fine.
but there's steps to get there. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. I mean, this is good for you because you're never gonna be able to get the contradiction.
Like he's so confused. Like, look, there can't be an
literally
infinite.
just-
Yo,
realistic
why am I
contingent
getting
things that just all
restriction?
depend
When was this? This was over a week ago, I think. But it was late at night. That's why most of people didn't catch this. And we went on Discord after this, and a few people joined. But it was super late at night.
on each other. But
Bruh,
how does that get us to
just
say God can't have potency?
Omar, do you think he can draw a contradiction from that?
No, this
Okay,
dumbass said that it's
here,
logically
Umar.
necessary. He's clearly confused.
Okay, let's let him try. Go ahead.
So Umar, the reason as to why God can't have potency is that one, it would be a contradiction in terms. If obviously the first syllogism that I gave in regards to what change is and the potential not being able to actualize itself, right? So when we get to the being of pure actuality, if you're saying that God has potential that is not moved by an external mover, you're just negating what potency is as a whole. So it's going to be a contradiction in
That doesn't
terms.
follow. There's different views of what potency is to begin with. Whether you hold to like somebody could say, I believe active potency just signifies that nothing external acts upon God, but he can still intrinsically change.
Yeah.
Yes, they do think God has potency, bro. Well, at least they try to say that there is no issue with saying that. Like they won't tell you that they affirm God as potency, because then they'll be like, oh, we don't accept Aristotelian metaphysics, whatever. But they'll at the same time they try to argue there's no issue with it. And now he's trying to say, well, nothing extrinsic to God can change him, but he can change. Basically, he can change himself. Which again, if these guys knew anything about act and potency, it's obviously not the case that a potency can change itself. It has to be something extrinsic. If you're saying that it's intrinsic to God, But it's still the case that a potency can't actualize itself. You're just saying God has parts, right? Like if you have a rod and the left side of the rod heats up the right side of the rod. That's only possible because the rod is made of parts.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
What?
So when you're talking about intrinsic change, one, I think you guys are just confused as
The most changeable, that's Allah. The most changeable.
to like God having active potency and passive potency. But
No, we're not confused.
yeah, I'm sure.
We're pretty
So-
clear on what we believe.
Okay. So in regards to God having potency, right? Potency can't reduce itself to actuality because that's a contradiction, right? It will require you to be both potential and actual
Yes,
at the
they do
same time in
believe
the
that.
same respect. So that's not possible. If you're saying that there's this potency in God that is reducing itself to actuality, obviously that's a contradiction. You're
This
saying that
constituent
God,
doesn't act upon itself. What is that gibberish? Seriously. You think that you think that properties act or something? It's the subject that acts. God has the will and the power. He has the capacity to do something. He has the power to do something, and then he does it. It's that simple. Will and power.
no. So if potency is actualized, then it has to be extrinsic.
How does that follow? It's
You
just
have to
asserting
prove
the-
that. You have to
just
prove that.
asserting
Oh
that.
my days. The first syllogism that I gave,
It
in
was
regards
invalid.
to if some things change, then things go from potential to actual. Some things change, right? Therefore, some things go from potential.
If you're just
to
saying
actual.
some things change, look, God could be the object.
Wait.
God changed. He went from potential to actual. How does that entail that it's something
God went from potential to actual.
external to him?
If God went from potential to actual, then God can't be the one that's making himself go from potential to actual. Because a potential can't actualize anything. A potential is not actual, but only things that are actual can actualize other things.
Okay, because a potential cannot actualize itself.
Oh yeah, he just said it.
When you're
Dude,
saying potential, you're talking about the constituent itself, not the entity. Clown, give me an argument.
do you know the difference, Elijah, between a constituent and an entity?
Yeah, so listen, you guys are so lost.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Okay,
This guy's a waste of my time, anyways. One sec.
perfect.
Alright.
So in regards to a potential not actualizing itself, right? The problem with a potential actualizing itself or a thing acting upon itself to make that potential into an actual is that either like that potential has to be moved by an external mover. If you're saying that there's something
Prove
different,
it.
how many times do I need to state the contradiction?
Yeah, so there you haven't given. What's the P and not P?
Okay. For a potential to actualize itself, it has to both be potential and actual at the same time in the same respect.
Prove that.
Oh my God. Because a potential is going to refer to what it could be, but is not actually yet, right?
Okay.
Okay. And actuality, one, is the only thing that is able to act and is not potential. Potential can't act.
You're not telling me how it's both at the same time.
So for a potential to reduce itself to actuality, it would have to be both potential and actual because
Oh my
it's
God, this guy's
reducing
so low tier, dude.
itself.
The constituents don't act upon themselves, you moron.
Oh my God, you guys are
Look,
you guys are
when you
actually
act, look, when you act and you have potency in you, does your potency act upon itself, dumbass?
no.
Okay, cool. So the subject is the one that acts, not
Wait, would you say that the subject?
You're-
is-
That's the issue. They're saying that the subject, Allah, is acting upon the constituent. And so they're literally saying that God is composed. Because God is really distinct with that he's acting upon, obviously. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to act upon it. And yet that thing he's acting upon is intrinsic to him. It's one of his parts. You got the whole of Allah, he's acting on one of its parts. Like I'm out here, I'm a whole and I have parts and I'm scratching one of my parts and I'm acting upon it.
Is
Same.
external to the properties?
Bro, you're saying, what are you guys talking about? All you're saying that a potential can, you want me to prove that a potential can reduce itself to actuality. And you're asking me what's the
You're
No,
talking
problem?
about the
Elijah,
constituent
I'm gonna give you
itself.
5
We're
minutes to
talking
get
about the
contradiction. I'm
being.
going to sleep, bro.
Why
5
can't
5 minutes and then the conversation goes on for 30 minutes.
the being go from not
Bro,
acting
this guy in the background, he needs to just be quiet. Bro adds nothing to the conversation this entire video.
to acting?
Bro, a being like you can go from not doing something to doing something. That's not, I'm not saying that that's not
I'm
possible.
talking about God, clearly.
Okay, so for God,
Yeah,
right?
they do.
The change that is like for him to change, right? He would have to have
Potency.
You cut out.
Potency. And if God has potency, then he's not pure act. And if he's not pure act, then he has potency. And if he has potency, then he changes. And if he changes, he's not pure act. And if he has pure act, then he has potency.
These guys are idiots.
But if he has
Literally
potency, then he
circular
cannot
as
be
hell,
God.
dude.
He'll be contingent. Like, bro, you see where you're going? These arguments are trash. Literally, like no one takes this shit seriously. This
Elijah,
Harry Potter
you're a
nonsense
bum,
in
dog.
2026.
Like,
You're a bum, straight up. You don't know what you're doing.
Elijah, listen. I'm gonna give you one more
No
chance. before I go to
contradiction,
sleep.
bro.
One
So
more
let-
chance.
listen. He's asking me to show why a potency cannot actualize itself. First, only things.
Wait,
that are
what does it
actual-
mean for a potency to act? When you say actualize itself, you need to
No one's saying
understand
potency
that
actualizes itself. We say that the
constituents don't
entity has
act-
potency.
constituents
And
don't
entity has.
actualize themselves. Okay, constituents are actualized by subjects. Does that make sense? They don't have causal powers.
So you
Subjects have causal
didn't just
powers.
ask me, so you didn't just ask me to prove that a potency can't actualize itself.
Yeah, but in the context of a
but
property
you
that
didn't.
subsists. No, but I thought that you were.
He's clearly talking about the
TMA,
subject.
TMA,
The
what
subject
exactly do you
itself.
want? What contradiction do you want me to prove to you right now? I'll talk to you.
Well, clearly
What
we
is-
know that there is no logical necessity for this garbage. So you can get some kind of metaphysical issue. That's fine.
If you, bro,
But
if
clearly you haven't
can't-
been
if you
able
can't
to
negate-
establish one.
First of all, you guys
Yeah,
haven't.
Yo,
I don't
Elijah,
know,
you're
like-
boring the shit out of me. Wallah, I'm so bored of
Wait,
that.
he said
You
there's a
asked me
logical
to
issue.
provide to you a contradiction.
Bro,
What contradiction do you want me
Wait,
to provide?
when you said
Additional acts, accidental acts, or have changed, quote unquote. Why can't he do that?
So what do you
What is
think
the
was the purpose?
contradiction?
Yes. What do you think? Okay, to change
Don't
is
ask
to
me
not,
questions. Don't ask me questions, G.
To change is to have potency.
no, to change is to not be purely actual. If your God changes,
To change is to not be pure act. And to not be pure act is to have potency. And to have potency is to not be pure act.
Anything else, Elijah? Like, you're one
Yo,
more
this
chance,
guy
bro.
is weak, bro. I thought he was better than this. This guy's shit.
Yeah, you guys are actually awful, bro.
You're
That's
terrible.
it.
Do you even, have you ever, look, Elijah? Have you ever heard of what's your? How do you solve providential collapsing?
Oh my god.
I reckon.
This is where it's gonna get bad, because now the conversation shifts to Elijah having to respond to an objection, and this is, mind you, he said that Elijah's arguments were terrible. Now he's gonna present an argument. So let's.
You don't even know what that is. I'm not gonna
Do
lie.
you know what that is? Providential collapse.
What do you mean when you say it?
Yeah, what I tell you, bro. Exactly.
Yo,
What I,
what the
exactly.
heck? Okay.
Exactly.
How do you look? How do you solve
That means one thing.
like,
One
God-
thing
like,
only.
do you
By
have,
the way,
do you hold
if
to like an
knew, you wouldn't
extrinsic
ask
view of knowledge or something? Like how do you solve God's like the aloneness argument? Or how do you solve like God knowing like true, God knowing propositions, right? Like God knowing true things, right? And the world is constantly changing, but He doesn't. Obviously, you don't want to be committed to God knowing that you existed eternally.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't believe that you existed eternally. So I mean, are you just committed to you being eternal or what?
that. Yeah.
No. So
Then you disassociate from B theory of time.
What? No. So I'll teach you guys.
Oh,
So
you don't? You don't?
So God knows all things through His essence, which means that
Through
He
His
knows-
essence, it's one act.
Hold on.
Guys. He knows
It means nothing. Literally means nothing. By the way.
This is all poetry.
You guys
It's
are,
not.
you
That's
guys
not the
are
question.
literally
It's
just,
poetry.
you guys are just panicking. I'm literally
No,
trying
dude,
to take
you're
my
just
time.
confused.
to
Whether
teach you
look,
guys.
So let me just frame the conversation so you guys know what's happening. Okay. They're asking about God's knowledge with respect to divine simplicity, right? Now, to my knowledge, this is how the argument is usually framed. Something like this, right? There's different versions of the argument, but this is how it's usually framed. Allow me to zoom in. Usually they'll say something like this. God knows that Elijah exists. Or, yeah, you have this proposition. And then they'll say, God's knowledge is identical to His essence. Whatever is identical to His essence is necessary. Therefore, the proposition Elijah exists is necessary. And obviously God can't know false things, so then it's going to have to be true that Elijah's existing is necessary and eternal and therefore so on and so forth, right? Now, the response to this is to distinguish between the object of knowledge and the act of knowing, right? Because when we say that God's knowledge is identical to his essence, that's referring to the act of God's knowing, and also what God knows in itself. And so there's two ways you can know something. You can know something. Here, I'll do this. 2 ways to know. Know something in itself or through another, right? So an example of knowing something in itself would be like, oh man, we got the Elijah Johnson here. He's gonna anathematize us for this title. So knowing something in itself, right? It's like if you're able to look at an object and contemplate upon this object. Like I have my phone here. I look at my phone and I'm able to know it. Knowing something through another would be like you see a mirror, and in that mirror you see the reflection of an object. Like I see myself, and I'm able to know myself through that mirror. Or I'm able to know the phone through the image of the phone that's represented in the mirror, right? That would be knowing something through another. So in God, when we say that God knows Elijah exists, he knows that through another. That other is going to be his own essence, because when God knows his own essence, he knows all the things that he can sustain, will not sustain. Nah, there ain't no way. If they copyright strike me, it is what it is, man. I don't even care for real. So in that way, God is able to know contingent facts like Elijah exists. So when we say in the premise, the second premise, God's knowledge is identical to his essence, if we're talking about God's act of knowing, then we concede. We accept the premise. If we're talking about what God knows in itself, then we accept the premise. If we're talking about what God knows through another, so those contingent facts that he knows, we do not accept the premise, and therefore the argument does not follow that this proposition, this proposition, which is a contingent fact, would be identical to his essence and therefore would be necessary. It would only follow if we're talking about what God knows in himself, which is his own essence, and then obviously it would be necessary. I hope that makes sense. And this is what Elijah's going to try to explain to them, but they rather laugh and joke and be stupid than actually try to understand things.
He knows
Such a
everything from his
scholastic
one
dude.
perfect act. He knows everything from his one perfect act. And right, oh my God, yes.
Elijah, I'll tell you what.
Obviously, God has beliefs, and he doesn't have false beliefs, right? But did he eternally believe that Elijah Johnson existed?
Existed?
Yeah.
Like he existed at one point?
Did he eternally believe that this world was actual?
Believed?
Yeah. Does he
Not
eternally believe
belief.
that this world is actual?
Yeah, no, so God doesn't have beliefs in the sense that he gains knowledge from the external world and then like
Well, that's what
derive
he- you know.
conclusions from that thing.
Is that what he
You ask-
said?
It's either the case that he eternally believes that
you
this
ask
world is
whether or not
actual,
he
or he doesn't.
believes something, right? You guys
It's
are just
either the case that
Believes?
God,
Elijah's actually trying to explain what he means. These guys are the ones that are just yapping.
here, it's either it's the case that God affirms that this world has eternally existed, or
That's
it
not
hasn't.
true.
That's not true, bro.
So does God know what world is actual?
God doesn't. Does God know which world is actual?
Yeah.
But does he know that this world is actual? Obviously, the way in which God knows these things, though, is through his essence, right?
No, I
So
asked.
in
Does he
God-
Bro,
eternally
you're
know
like,
that?
bro, I'm not gonna lie.
Does he eternally know that though?
What is wrong with you guys? Oh my days!
Elijah, does he eternally know that this world was actual?
So obviously, God always knows like everything at one like present now. So like
One present now, perfect. So now for us is just from our perspective, but there's one eternal now, right?
yeah, so like God obviously always perfectly knows himself, and he knows everything as their cause, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And
Okay,
so
wait. So God,
go ahead.
God knowing everything as their cause, he knows everything that he does cause, will cause, and could cause, right? So this is how God knows everything as one eternal act of knowing, right? In him knowing himself and his power, he can know everything that he does cause, will cause, and could cause.
Ooh, but does he know what is actually the case?
Wait, when you say will cause,
Is he aware of what is the case?
just
Because you
one
believe that
sec.
God
You
was once
said
alone.
hang on, Amar, one moment, please. I'm sorry to interrupt. When you said that God will cause, can you elaborate?
Like,
No, that was my
He's so
mouth. I did it
confused,
on
bro.
purpose.
He's so
Like he
confused,
literally
bro.
doesn't know what's
Yo,
going on.
Iraqi, go easy, bro.
Well, this guy doesn't know what the aloneness argument. He
Elijah,
doesn't know.
you're a
He doesn't know
bot.
proper.
Like,
The aloneness argument. What he's presenting is not even the aloneness argument, but we.
to help you
Oh,
understand,
oh,
and instead of engaging,
Trust me, I completely know your view. I know what Matthew. Look, there's a whole paper by Matthew Grant where he shits on your stupid view of oh my God, God eternally knows things through himself.
Remember, our view is stupid. Remember that.
Like, wow, man. Like,
Right,
as if that
guys
helps
are
you guys.
actually
That doesn't help.
very, very low tier.
The point is that you believe that God, obviously, he doesn't have false beliefs, and you also believe that you're not eternal.
No.
But if you're saying that there's one eternal now, and the now is just like from our perspective, things change just from our perspective, then if you're going to say that there's like one eternal now, from God's perspective, did God's perspective go from you not existing to existing?
From God's perspective, so the act of God,
Did his perspective change?
No, answer that, Elijah. Answer that, please.
You're big.
God-
These guys are trying to argue that God changes.
God doesn't like. And you're talking about a perspective, right? You're
Yeah, from
saying
his
that-
perspective, answer that.
Okay, so if you're talking about perspective in the sense that God gains new things from the external things that happens, then no, like that, God wouldn't have a perspective like that. Like,
So he always affirmed that you were existing.
so he always affirms that like he is the cause of Elijah.
No, answer what he said, bro.
That's not what I'm asking.
No, see, this is the argument they're running, which is distinct from what I was telling you guys about. There is this proposition that Elijah exists, and the question they're asking, well, does God affirm this proposition? Right? And their whole argument is, if God does not affirm this eternally, right, then God has to begin to affirm it at some point, right? So their whole argument is, well, if he doesn't affirm this eternally, right? But what's the argument for this? What's the argument for the fact that God has to either eternally affirm the fact that Elijah exists, or he has to begin to affirm that Elijah exists at some point? Because we can just say, well, the fact that Elijah exists is obviously going to be relative to some point in time. So God can eternally affirm the following proposition. I don't even know when Elijah's birthday is for real. Let's just make up some random birthday. Let's make him super old. So God eternally affirms this, right? And God is still all-knowing because he still knows all true propositions. And this is a true proposition. And the proposition, again, Elijah exists, this proposition would only be true relative to some specific point in time. Like it wasn't true in the year 1500 that Elijah existed, right? So this true proposition is always going to be relative to some point in time. So if you take a statement like Elijah exists today, well, does God know this proposition Elijah exists today? You can say yes, God knows this proposition Elijah exists today, because the today here would just equal what? May 1st, 2026, right? And those two, if you replace today with May 1st, 2026, those two becomes identical propositions. They would only be semantically distinct. So then it would still be the case that God knows all true propositions. But they want to say that Elijah exists today i.e. May 1st, 2026, and Elijah exists today, let's say this is like May 1st, or let's just do some random day, August 25th, 2057. They want to say that these two are the same proposition. So that, for example, if Elijah were to die tomorrow, God forbid, but if he were to die tomorrow, God would stop believing the proposition that Elijah exists today. But again, these are not the same proposition. Their argument rests upon an equivocation, right? To say, oh, he goes from believing that Elijah exists today, then when he dies, he stops believing that Elijah exists today. No, he doesn't stop believing that Elijah exists today, because today was specific to that day. It was specific to that point in time. And now, the today is specific to a different point in time. So he doesn't stop believing that proposition.
Also, Elijah, stop wigging around. Answer what he said.
I'm answering your question, bro.
No, you're
I'm not
not.
asking if you
Wallahi, you're
caused.
not.
I'm not asking if you
guys
caused.
are
For the
so
Emancipation Proclamation, I
Think
was
you
But
existing,
answer the
bro.
question.
You guys are genuinely lost.
You're lost. You don't know what you're talking about.
Answer what he's saying
No,
directly.
you don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so answer the question. I'm completely clueless. Yet we've taught you that you gave a syllogism earlier that wasn't.
Omar, ask the question again. Ask the question again.
is,
Listen,
does God?
Wait, Elijah, stop. Elijah, stop. I'll moderate this now. I'm tired.
From
Elijah, you
God-
stop. Omar, you ask the question one more time. Clearly, Elijah, answer it clearly.
It would be, yeah.
Obviously, there's a difference between God knowing that Elijah Johnson will exist versus Elijah Johnson is actual. So did God eternally know that Elijah Johnson is actual?
Yeah, so Elijah Johnson is actual. If that's indexed to a particular effect of his creation, which means that obviously it's in this point in time, then yeah, he would know that. But God doesn't know like false propositions, obviously. So if you're like that is actual is going to obviously be specific to a point in time and as to which it would be true.
So all you said was God knows
Oh.
that, all he said, everybody, was God knows that Elijah Johnson will exist at T2. Wow, good job, dude. That's not what I asked. If he knows that you will exist at a point in time, does he know the difference between what will exist versus what is actual? Yes or no?
I already
So again, what will exist is only relative to time. So it's only to us that X will exist, right? To say that from God's perspective, will X exist? It's a category error because that assumes that God is already in time, which Elijah
told you that.
No, yes or no, Elijah, yes or no with that question specific that he just said now.
Do you know the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, bro.
Okay,
Because
so
I already told you.
does God take it to be
already told
true
you
that Elijah
God, you can still say God knows that X will exist relative to our point in time.
Johnson was eternally actual?
Was eternally actual? Like I
Yes
had-
or no?
like
Yes,
I had some
it's
substance. No, like that's not a true proposition.
Okay, so then this is the problem now that you have to accept. It's either you affirm that.
Dilemma.
I mean, I don't know how you're going to say any other account that's not going to result in change. But there's like extrinsic accounts of knowledge, which I think is just gibberish. But specifically when you have like agents and they have beliefs, those are internal to the entity. Especially in your case, God exists, and there was creation. There was no creation at one point, so I don't know how it's going to be extrinsic knowledge unless you're like you just believe that these propositions. But in this case, you quite literally conceded God. No, he goes from not believing that Elijah Johnson is actual to believing that Elijah Johnson is actual. So that's a change.
Notice, he said that God goes from not believing that Elijah Johnson is actual to believing that Elijah Johnson is actual. And this is a change in God. But again, it's all resting upon this equivocation that those two propositions are exactly the same in both cases, right? Because not believing that Elijah is actual, or it not being the case that Elijah is actual, is going to be relative to a specific point in time where it is not the case that Elijah exists. And then it being the case that Elijah exists is going to be relative to a specific time where he actually does exist. And those two propositions would therefore not be the same. They would only be the same in appearance. And thus it would just be an equivocation. And it's not even complicated. These guys are just stupid.
No. So if you heard my first response, right, in regards to the way in which God knows everything, in knowing himself, and he knows him as, or he knows himself as that which he, obviously does cause, can cause, or is, possible, whatever. Then obviously he would know me as that which is caused at a particular moment in time. It doesn't necessitate then that I am always actual in order for him to know
He
me.
didn't eternally believe that Elijah Johnson was caused, right?
That's not a true proposition. The God doesn't have like false. He doesn't know.
So God
false
doesn't know what's actual. So when you didn't exist, did God know that you didn't exist?
Are you?
I mean, when you didn't exist. What's the argument I'm not eternal? So notice how he says when you didn't exist. Again, relative to a specific point in time.
This isn't a change in his knowledge, right?
Okay, so give me a different account. If it's not going to be his knowledge, look, this has to do with like beliefs, right? Beliefs.
And mind you, what do you think they would say is, does God still know that you didn't exist when you didn't exist? And they would say, obviously, God still knows that. So it's he doesn't change.
These like the proposition Elijah Johnson is actual. God did not eternally believe that, and then at one point he did believe that. So if you're not going to say that that's not a change in his knowledge, you need to give some kind of account where it's not going to be intrinsic. And I already gave you the destructive dilemma. If you're going to, this is a destructive dilemma, guys, by the way, you lost. Because if you want to hold to an extrinsic account of change, I already told you that there was nothing separate from God at that point in time, or at that moment, or whatever, from eternity. There's nothing separate from God. So I don't know how you're going to hold to an extrinsic view unless these propositions are, unless you're like a Platonist about them. So God went from not believing that Elijah Johnson is actual to then believing that Elijah Johnson is actual.
No, bro, that's not necessary. You'd have
So
to
then he
give
doesn't know what's actual, right?
No, bro. That's a false
You see,
dichotomy, and you'd have to give
No,
a
it's false dichotomy. It's either the case that God knows what's actual or he doesn't.
Yeah, so he can know what's actual, and the way in which he knows it is not through the external perception of like taking in information and things like that. That's not the way in which God like receives knowledge. He doesn't receive knowledge over time or anything.
No one asks if he receives knowledge. He can still have this, content within his mental capacity that he's aware that Elijah Johnson is going to exist at a point in time. But this affirmation itself is going to be contingent, unless you're a necessitarian. But anyways, yeah.
the affirmation is contingent.
Like obviously, he doesn't affirm that God must create Elijah Johnson. If there's another world where Elijah Johnson doesn't exist, and that's contingent, and then God's knowledge would have contingently intrinsic properties, and that's the whole point of the aloneness argument. But
what do you think
anyways,
I'm saying about
with
what do you think
your
I'm saying
view,
about
hold on,
God?
I didn't finish.
Yeah, okay, cool. What's my view? What am I saying about
so
God's knowledge?
with your view, when you say that, he just knows by knowing his essence, or knowing whatever, people have different views, like whether it's he knows what his cause is, or he knows his essence so perfectly. Oh my God, look at the poetry! It's almost as if the poetry helps. It doesn't help.
Bro, just
It's
like
when you didn't exist.
It does help, because otherwise you're gonna have to say God knows something else, or God knows something, another thing in itself. So for example, if I know this mouse in itself, this mouse is actualizing knowledge in my mind, because if this mouse didn't exist, if it wasn't here in front of me, then I wouldn't know it. So unless you want to say that God's knowledge is contingent upon other things, then yeah, you're gonna have to say that quote unquote poetry. And that's what they end up saying.
God knew that Elijah Johnson did not exist, correct?
yeah, like, or he knows like that you exist at a certain point in time.
No, did God know that Elijah Johnson didn't exist at a point in time?
Like as far as that's true, yeah, of course.
Okay, so it was true that God knew that Elijah didn't exist at a point in time, and it's also true that God knew that Elijah Johnson exists at a point, that he did exist at a point in time, that he was actual at a point in time, right?
Yeah, and how does God receive that knowledge, or how does God have that knowledge?
He just affirms it.
He just affirms it when?
Yep, based on the state of affairs changing.
No, and that's where we disagree. And so like you would have to
so
say
it's either that or you say that God will affirm false propositions.
no, bro. Then that's what I'm saying. So you're just saying things without actually giving us like a substantiation to the things that you're claiming.
What's your grounding for that? Like, dude, you're corny, dude.
Elijah, does God?
This guy clearly didn't read nothing about the aloneness argument, nothing about providential collapse, nothing about modal collapse, nothing about the extrinsic view of knowledge, and all this gibberish that he propagates, all this garbage.
Bro, these are the dudes that read only about one side of the issue and don't read about the other side. Because I used to believe in these arguments too. Whenever I read just the arguments against this position, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, cool. And then I read the refutations of these arguments, and I was like, oh, actually, these arguments don't work.
God knows.
But this is how they come off with this arrogance, confidence, because they only know one side of the position. This is like when EOs try to say the Theological is false because there's an imbalance in the Trinity, and that's all everyone's ever told.
You believe that God's knowledge is dependent upon creation?
Is this just like a dodge?
No, I'm asking you. You believe that God's knowledge, Allah's knowledge is dependent upon creation?
Affirmations are going to depend on the state of affairs. So I don't believe that God affirms. I don't believe that
God's knowledge is dependent upon creation, bro.
I don't affirm that God exists. I don't affirm that God knows that I exist eternally, like you, clown.
No.
When did Elijah ever say that God knows that Elijah exists eternally, right? When did he ever say this? Because now that's a different proposition. No one has ever said that this proposition, Elijah exists eternally, that was something God knows, bruh. Why doesn't it do the pretty arrow like it did before, bruh? Oh, I think I have to do 2 of them. Yeah. When did he ever say this? He didn't. And I can actually make this bigger because... Oh, that's way too big. Okay, that's good.
No. Does God's knowledge depend on creation?
When you say knowledge, you're just talking about the affirmation. The affirmation.
Notice, when you say knowledge, you're just talking about the affirmation. So to him, knowledge equals the affirmation. Okay?
Affairs.
So that's
If
the
that specific state of affairs is actual, then God doesn't affirm false things. So now you're just dodging.
But
you're trying to say,
him knowing,
do you believe God doesn't affirm false things? So now you're just dodging.
But
you're trying to say,
him knowing,
do you believe with God? Do you? Now you're trying to critique my view. When you're intellectually slammed, you're pushed into a corner.
You see how the dude is panicking right now? He don't want to let Elijah talk.
You're
pushed into a corner and you can't answer. Now you're dodging.
Spamming rhetoric. You're in a corner. You suck.
My views are relevant. I just explicated my view and I showed how it's not
exactly. What you just said was that God's knowledge is
clear.
It's
clear you're dodging. You
things.
can't actually defend your view.
You're sitting here laughing at me when you believe that God's knowledge is dependent upon creation. That's ridiculous.
What a vague proposition.
I think you're just confused. Knowledge over here just talks. Knowledge over here is just going to signify
you literally
affirmation.
Just said, you believe that God's knowledge is dependent upon creation, and y'all.
Do you have a reductio? Do you have a reductio for the affirmations being dependent on these state of affairs?
Yeah.
Notice. He asked, do you have a reductio for these affirmations being dependent on the state of affairs? The state of affairs being the things that are constantly changing, right? So the affirmation, according to him, is dependent on the constantly changing state of affairs. And what did he say earlier? That knowledge here is just going to refer to the affirmation. So knowledge would be dependent on this same thing. Knowledge would just be dependent on this same thing, bro. Now, what's the issue with God's knowledge being dependent on the constantly changing state of affairs? That God is dependent. I'm muted? No. What do you mean I'm muted, bro? Is it working now? I don't even see the sound is fine on here. You back, it's good. That's weird. You're just super quiet. Oh, maybe it's because I was leaning back. But I'll turn up my volume on the microphone. You look like Muslim? What is bro yapping about here? Okay. So yeah, if the affirmation is dependent on the muted again? Are you exception? Yeah, I'm gonna be accepting questions later. Can you guys hear me? Why does it say I'm muted? It's going in and out. Oh my days. So some people are saying I'm fine. Others are saying I'm not. Yeah, loud and clear. Okay. Well, yeah, as he said, that the affirmation is dependent on the state of affairs. The state of affairs being creation. And the affirmation is just the knowledge. Then obviously the knowledge is going to be dependent on the state of affairs. Now, bro is asking for a reductio. And mind you, a reductio is just going to be some argument that that shows that there is some absurdity entailed, right? I'll show you guys this. Reductio ad absurdum is a form of argument that seeks to demonstrate that a statement is true by showing that a false, untenable, or absurd result follows from its denial. Now, bro is asking, what's absurd? What's something absurd about saying that God's knowledge is dependent upon creation? It's like my headphones. See, some people are saying they hear me clearly. Try to do this. Why are you guys trolling me, bro? Some people are saying the audio's going out. Other people are saying it's fine. Allah working overtime. Why are you guys trolling me right now, bro? I'm about to check myself. Yeah, I know it's fine on TikTok. Okay, let me see if I can hear this. I'm about to check myself. Yeah, I know it's fine on TikTok. It sounds fine. You guys must be tripping. Maybe your guys' Wi-Fi sucks. I'm just gonna continue. So, mind you, he's asking us what's the absurdity that's entailed by saying God's knowledge is dependent upon creation. Maybe the absurdity is that. Maybe that's the absurdity, bro. Your mic is hella low in comparison to the stream, yo. I don't even know what that means. I don't know why that's the case. Yeah, I could turn my mic up on TikTok. I hope that helps. Move it closer. The mic is not available. What do you mean? It looks like it's available to me. Yeah, so that, mind you, they have an entire, even if we wanted to actually, this is already stupid, okay? They're asking us to show what's wrong with saying that God's knowledge is dependent upon creation. What's the absurdity entailed? As if that's not already an absurdity. But mind you, that in their Quran, it says, I can't remember what exact verse this is. There's this verse, right? Let me zoom this in so you guys can see this. There's this verse in the Quran. Audio broken on YouTube? Why, bro? Why? No, bro, they're not pulling my leg. They're being for real. I don't know why the audio, but I don't know, it's just broken for them. On my phone it's fine. I don't know why it's broken for them. There's this verse in the Quran. Audio broken on YouTube? Why, bro? Yeah, see, like I hear myself just fine. But it says, he is the originator of the heavens and the earth. He has made for you spouses from among yourselves and made mates for cattle, as well multiplying you both. There is nothing like him, for he alone is the all-hearing, all-seeing. Right? Now, what does it mean for there to be nothing like him, right? Because in the, within their schools of thought, within their creeds, right? A lot of them interpret this verse and say, well, there is no similarity between him and creation, okay? Such that when they say that Allah has a right hand, they won't even tell us what that right hand is. The only thing they can tell us about this right hand is that there is no similarity between this right hand and a created right hand. And I'll show you guys this from their own sources. Let me just pull this. Just pull this up on my notes. So these are a few books I took notes on. I'll zoom in later. I'll just zoom in right now, bro. This is from a long time ago. Okay. Imam al-Tahawi's Creed of Islam. Now, to my knowledge, this is one of the main creeds. TikTok is super blurry. Yeah, I know, bro. Like, what do you want me? It is super blurry. And why is this even on the screen, bro? Fudge, man. Yo, this sucks, bro. Maybe I can make it less blurry for you guys. It's cooked. Oh, what if I make it its own window? Wait. Okay. That's a little better. Now I just have to reset this. Give me 1 second, guys. Trying to help you guys out here. Oh, bruh. This is so bro. I hate TikTok Studio, bro. I absolutely hate it. I think I'm gonna exit this out and then I'm gonna just share a different screen. Window capture add. Add source. What is this? What am I looking at? I mean, even then you can't see that. All right, honestly, guys, I'm gonna just do this. I'm just gonna share my. I'm just gonna do this, bro. I'm gonna move myself up here. You're just gonna have to use the booty camera. Sorry, and then I'm gonna share my actual window. Okay, there we go. This should be a lot better. You guys won't get the high quality camera, but it's worth it. And mind you, this is all because Elijah refuses to help people. It's all his fault. Can you start over from when you were saying you got baked? Yeah, so these are some books you can read on Muslim creeds, right? And one thing you'll read from all of them basically is that they all have the same view on this verse. And I'll show you some examples, right? So I really want to look at this one by Imam al-Tahawi. That's like the main one to my knowledge that people use on. Okay, so here's some quotes for this verse. It says that as for the statement, nothing is like him, it affirms the perfection of his essence in pre-eternity by negating him having appear and similitude. Allah said there is nothing whatsoever like unto him. This verse is categorical regarding the above mentioned purport, so all the ambiguous verses to whose literal meanings the anthropomorphists cling to are to be interpreted in light of this, right? They're saying this verse is categorical. There is no varied interpretations among this verse. It means that there is no similitude like him, whatever. He goes on to say he is also intended to negate the doctrine of the Christians, as they assign to him a son and a wife. Yeah, we definitely assign to God a wife, but anyways, Allah is exalted above that. Undoubtedly, a child resembles his father. So according to this, his statement, and creatures do not resemble him, conveys what his previous statement, there is nothing like him, does not. For the former statement is general, whereas the latter is specific. It is therefore understood as emphasizing Allah Almighty and Majestic's exaltedness above that which is unbefitting for him. And he continues to say, he only cited the above verse immediately after negating having need because it is a definitive text, not subject to a variable interpretation, right? So there is no varied interpretations. Now, the only varied interpretations are that you're going to get is among those who are literally called anthropomorphists. So these are people which the main creeds of Islam, they reject. And they call these people anthropomorphists. They say they're not Muslim. They say they're kafir, right? So this verse is not subject to a variable interpretation. Moreover, the above verse, includes the negation of all attributes of creation and characteristics of all originated things. And it affirms all the attributes of praise and perfection. Notice, if the attributes of his actions are originated, as the Asharis claim, they would have necessarily been like the attributes of creation in terms of having an origin. However, the above cited text negates similarity, right? So there are a group of people who, like the Asharis, they say certain things like, oh, the Quran is originated or whatever, right? So they say that some of God's attributes are originated. And the other schools in Islam, they call these people anthropomorphists and kafirs. But, mind you, this dude is asking us, what's the reductio with saying God's knowledge is dependent upon creation? If God's knowledge is dependent upon creation, then his knowledge is just like our knowledge. This is tafsir. No, this is a book on the creeds of Islam. So they have various creeds like the Asharis and the Atharis. They're schools of thought that talk about Islamic theology, right? And this is from a book on Imam al-Tahawi's creed, which is one of the most widely accepted creeds within Islam. This is Imam al-Tahawi's Creed of Islam, an exposition by Abu Hafs Siraj, right? You can find these online. I'm pretty sure I was able to find them online. And so this doctrine is basically called the doctrine of Tanzi, right, of transcendence. And they're saying, well, Allah is transcendent, so he's nothing like creation. But these New Age Muslims, these New Age retarded pagan Muslims, sorry for my language, that slipped out. They're trying to tell us what's the issue with saying God's dependent upon creation. This is the issue that you guys simultaneously, not only is the fact that God is supposed to be independent, but it's also the fact that you guys are supposed to affirm that he has no similarity to creation whatsoever. But all of a sudden that gets thrown out the window. And here he talks about the anthropomorphists, right? He says, the view of some of the Hanbalis is that Allah's speech is composed of uncreated letters subsisting in his essence is also false, as letters emanate a sequentiality and some are preceded by others, and anything that precedes another is originated. Moreover, letters only emanate from organs, i.e. throat, lips, and so forth. Therefore, entail anthropomorphism, right? This is again one group figuratively interpreted with their personal opinions, thereby negating the attributes of Allah and nullifying them. So there's certain groups within Islam where they say that God's right hand is metaphorical, whatever, right? And another group interpreted them according to their literal sense and fell into anthropomorphic notions about Allah. They either became deniers of the divine attributes, so the first people, or anthropomorphists, the second people. The due portion of one whose faith is firmly rooted in the ambiguous verse is to refrain from figuratively interpreting them and stop at his most high sayings, but none know its interpretation except Allah, right? And yet here are these dudes saying that God's knowledge is dependent upon creation. At the same time, he's nothing like creation. And it's
bro, because
Elijah, it's either you affirm
obviously,
that. Here, Elijah,
obviously,
it's either you affirm that or you affirm that God affirms that Elijah Johnson exists eternally.
Yeah, but if you're saying that God's knowledge,
you already fell into this, and
if you're saying, brother,
I promise you, I can find plenty of Christians who will literally spell you out for rejecting divine simplicity today. You're clearly confused.
If you're saying that God's knowledge is dependent upon creation, then he is not always all knowing. You're saying that he just knows.
You clown, all knowing. Just look, all knowing.
Literally,
you could just say God knows what will happen, everything that will happen before it happens, and God knows all true propositions. But if the proposition,
how does he know those things?
If the proposition itself isn't true, look, I'm a definition about truth.
Yeah, but this Elijah's right here because God wouldn't be essentially all knowing. because knowledge would not be intrinsic to his essence. It would be received from another. The knowledge of something else would be given to him. It would actually be actualized within him in virtue of knowing something else, or in virtue of that
I'm a
How does
pluralist
he know
about
those things?
I'm a pluralist about truth, right? So
Wait. How does God know those things?
this proposition is going to be true if and
How
only if
does God
he-
know those things?
Can I finish? So
Can you answer
with
my
the state of
question?
affairs, obviously, with the state of affairs changing, then that affirmation is going to be taking place. But if the affirmation is going to be eternally affirmed, then you would be eternal, clown.
Bro, how does
And
God
now,
know those
and now
things?
I already explicated my view. Now you're running away to now you're
How
running to
does
my
God-
view. Now
how
you're running
does
to my
God
view
know
because you're
those
crashing
things?
out because you got absolutely
Bro,
embarrassed
so
today.
scared
Elijah,
You came in,
defend your own position, bro.
you blundered on you blundered on your
How does
syllogism.
God know
You
those
got
things?
body bagged.
Elijah,
You got
Elijah.
body put touch
Now
up
if
screen.
it's
You
a-
got
you're
body
bad.
bagged
Listen,
today.
no one cares about what this host is saying. This is his live, and he's trying to talk, and no one cares about what he's saying. This is ridiculous, bro. Why are you even live at this?
Anakin could be saying Allah
terrible.
Supreme upon creation.
You would have thought bro was a guest on this live.
Don't ask about Omar's view. Defend your
You're
view.
terrible. I already
you don't-
explicated
you don't
my
want me
view,
to
and I
ask
showed
about the view where God
defended upon
and I
creation.
showed the entailment.
Hold on,
I
wait.
showed the entailment of
Wait.
you rejecting my view.
Let's see what
I showed the
people are saying in the
entailment of you
comments
rejecting
about
it, which
this
is going to be
section, bro.
if you say that the affirmations aren't going to be changing due to the state of affairs, then God would eternally affirm that Elijah Johnson exists. But God doesn't eternally affirm Elijah Johnson exists because Elijah Johnson did not eternally exist, right?
Yeah, perfect. Cool. I'll let you speak.
This dude said the Abrahamic text doesn't teach this Aristotelian nonsense at all. God acts in succession, does actions after not doing them. Yo, these guys, bro.
Now let me speak. You guys are getting on me for showing that God has to be independent and not depend on creation in regards to his attributes, because you guys want to defend a God that depends on creation for his attributes.
Can you
So-
define
This
what
guy
that
is just not
means?
addressing anything, bro. Just drop
Did
him.
you just say, can you
Yeah, you see, now they want him to drop him, bro.
provide the
So
contradiction to that?
You're trash. I never said contradiction.
These are y'all guys.
I never said
bro?
contradiction. What the heck?
These are y'all want me to provide
now, I
an
never said
argument that God's
contradiction.
not supposed to be dependent?
I never
Ah,
said contradiction in that. Do you think
This
that
is,
ever
this is what
contradiction?
if this is what we
Mind you, they were calling Elijah's arguments trash. They called his position Aristotelian garbage, whatever. I'd rather take this Aristotelian garbage over the idea that I worship a God who's dependent and that I worship a big Goku in the sky.
doing in
You're completely
2026?
slow.
This is what Islam
This
has
is
been
embarrassing.
saying.
Contradiction. What are
Stop
you
with the
talking
rhetoric,
about?
bro. Stop with the
I
rhetoric.
never said contradiction about this.
Stop with the rhetoric. This guy here is complaining about rhetoric. This guy who was being the ad lib of the entire stream, singing songs in the background. Bro.
Jeez, bro.
Who said
These guys are
contradiction?
You got Yo, Elijah Johnson.
GG's, bro.
Elijah
You guys,
Johnson.
I'm up here trying to help you guys.
Elijah
come-
Aristotelian, it just has to do with like Aristotle's way of thinking about being, like the nature of things.
the truth about the true God. And y'all want me to tell you why you
Elijah
can't
Johnson,
believe in this
calm down.
dependent
Stop
God?
crashing out. Stop crashing
That's what
out.
you guys.
Look,
That's what y'all
you
are
want
doing,
to say,
bro?
Smart
look,
ass Goku.
you want to have
Just
your
fine,
cake
bro.
and eat it.
Fine.
When you hold the DDS, you want to have your cake and eat it, but you can't.
Bro,
It's
there's
either
no-
it's,
you haven't.
Bro said you want to have your cake and eat it, but you can't. With God, either God's gonna be dependent, or Elijah gonna be eternal. I don't know, guys. Which one is worse? Elijah being eternal or God being dependent? I don't know, bro. I feel like God being dependent is worse than Elijah being eternal. I mean, Elijah being eternal would actually be fire. You know, he don't gotta worry about dying. He ain't got no beginning, no end.
Provided.
when I speak,
you
mute
haven't
this
provided
clown.
a-
He wants to get dropped so bad.
No,
Look,
you
if you're
haven't
going to
provided an
affirm,
argument
if you're
that
going
Elijah
to
waits. Elijah waits. Bro.
Yeah, good boy. So if you take that God doesn't believe false things, but you did not eternally exist, then God goes from believing that you didn't exist to believing that you did exist.
Again, that's already assuming God is in time. You're saying if God doesn't eternally believe X, then God goes from not believing X to believing X. What's the argument for this? He's just always asserting this over and over and over again. Elijah's already explained to him that the propositions that are eternally believed could just be relative to a specific point in time with respect to creation. And then it wouldn't be the case that God stops believing it or starts believing it. He just always knows it.
And if you don't take that to be the case, then God just wouldn't know what's actual.
No, so The thing
No, he
that's
would
going
affirm
to be
something
the
that's
problem.
false.
No. So okay. So I think I see where the confusion is coming in. So in regards to God, like knowing these propositions, right? The problem is not going to be with God knowing propositions. It's going to be the way in which he knows propositions. So the way in which you and I know propositions is going to be obviously through like deductive or inductive reasoning or some type of experiential knowledge, right? The perception of the event actually happened is the way in which we know these things, which means we're dependent on the current state of affairs, which is what you're saying a lot, is dependent upon the state of affairs to know these things. For us, though, God does not depend on the state of affairs in order to know such things. The way in which he knows such things is going to be my fault. The way, appreciate you, life. The way in which he knows such things is going to be eternal and of himself. So that's the thing that's obviously going to be in contention. You're saying that God's knowledge is dependent upon the state of affairs or creation. We're saying no, God's knowledge is not dependent upon the state of affairs or creation at all. Which I think
Can I
would
respond to that?
Cool. Yeah,
Amar, can I respond to that?
just let me show the chat what he's trying to do.
Bro asking his Umar if he could respond to that, like Umar his father, bro. Umar, can I respond to that? Umar, can I please respond to that, Umar? And then bro wanted to tell Elijah good boy. Like,
All he's doing is just dodging
ridiculous.
the fact that look, he didn't even address anything that I said. I said it's either the case that God would affirm false things, which you don't want to be committed to that, or you would have to say that God doesn't know what's actual. But clearly God does know what's actual. When creation didn't exist, God knows that creation doesn't exist. And then after creation does exist, God goes from not.
And now he's assuming there's a point in time where creation doesn't exist, even though we affirm that time starts at the moment of creation.
Affirming. No, over here is talking about affirming, affirmation. God affirms that Elijah Johnson does exist. And if you say that he doesn't affirm that you exist at a point in time, then.
But notice he says that you don't want to say that God is believing false propositions. So these propositions have to be true. And again, what makes the proposition true? What makes the proposition true is that it's referring to a specific point in time, bro.
You would have to be eternal.
Okay,
That's
so
the
when
whole
you say
point that
that,
I'm making.
so when we say that God knows that Elijah exists, that's going to be relative to a point in time, right? That's the only way in which it's going to be a true proposition. Now, God would always know that if he decides to create, which is obviously in accordance with his knowledge, which he would perfectly know, that Elijah exists relative to the point in time in which
Exactly.
Elijah exists,
Elijah's
which
so
is the
hard,
only
bro.
way in which God is obviously able to know that.
Oh my
And
God,
he's
this guy's
able-
such a bot. How many times did I respond to his trash?
Yeah.
And
his response, by the way, is just him repeating himself again, saying either he doesn't know that X is actual or he's gonna start knowing that X is actual.
God knows.
It
Look,
gives
the
no
proposition
argument
gets
for this.
reduced to
Bro,
God
you
knows
just-
that Elijah
you-
exists at T2.
you-
Wow.
brother,
Like you're just
brother.
repeating yourself. I didn't
saying-
ask.
you just-
Elijah.
Look, and he understands the response. He said that Elijah is just reducing the proposition to God knows Elijah exists at T2 or a specific point in time. And what is his refutation of this?
Exists at T2. Wow.
Brother,
Like you're just
brother.
repeating yourself. I
What's the
didn't ask for that.
refutation?
And I hope you know that
Hey,
philosophers within the
listen,
literature even argue that
Umar,
saying that
you're
God, like
panicking.
saying that Elijah Johnson
Umar,
exists
you're
now isn't
panicking,
even
bro.
reducible, isn't even able to get reduced to a test
Umar,
proposition.
you're
Oh, the philosophers in the literature disagree with you, dude. Hey, wrap it up, bro. Oh, you should have said this at the start of the conversation. Elijah got cooked. Elijah got cooked because this guy said that the philosophers in the literature disagree with his position. I wonder what philosophers in the literature 500 years ago would have said about his view of God. They would have called him a pagan. That's what they would have said. But now it's just confirmed that Elijah got cooked because the philosophers in the literature said that you can't reduce those propositions, right? Jesus.
Clearly confused. You don't know what you're talking
You're
about.
panicking, bro.
Wrap it up.
Umar,
Yeah,
you're
I'm
panicking.
so panicking, dude. You've literally got embarrassed this entire time.
Just because I provide you the view that Christians obviously hold to and we're able to substantiate our claims and you're not able to refute it, so you just say
Just
it in a
because you
funny
say that
voice,
you provided
doesn't
like, this
mean
view
that it's
and I can't
false.
refute it doesn't actually mean that's the case. Look, it's either
Well,
you
you
believe that
haven't
God
provided
knows.
a
It's either you take it the fact that God knows what is actual, or He doesn't. If God knows what is actual, then you were not eternally actual.
If God knows what is actual, then you're not eternally actual. Wow, that's so meaningful, dog. Wow.
Right?
What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you? Bro, it's just saying words at this point. If God knows what is actual, then you are not eternally actual? What? What are you talking about?
Umar,
You see how you
listen
just
to what
can't
I'm
even
s-
answer any
listen.
questions?
No,
Yeah,
listen
just-
to what I'm
bro,
can't answer
saying.
It's
stuff
look,
with no
Umar,
just if it's either you're gonna answer this or you're just
Umar,
gonna get dropped.
listen
Does
to
God
what I'm
know
saying.
that you were actual eternally?
Yes, relative to a point in time.
No,
Obviously.
no. Not that he knows when you will be actual. Does he know that you were actual?
Again, the proposition Elijah is actual. In order for God to know it, it has to be a true proposition. Okay? In order for it to be a true proposition, it has to be within a specific point in time. Because of the fact that God is not, or Elijah is not eternally actual. So if it's the case that God is not eternally, or Elijah is not eternally actual, then it has to be the case that in order for this proposition to be true, it has to be within a specific point in time, or at least within a specific time period. That's just obvious. Who's going to deny this?
Relative to a point in time, obviously.
This guy's a bot. I'm not asking if he knows that you will be actual. I'm asking if he knows that you were actual or you weren't actual, clown.
So that you're asking me something.
And again, Elijah is not even saying that he will be actual. He's just saying that this proposition, when God knows it, it would just be something like Elijah is actual April 1st or May 1st. This is all the if we're imagining that God knows the specific propositions in his mind, this would be the proposition that he knows. And he would eternally know this proposition. And he wouldn't stop knowing this proposition. This proposition would never be false. So he would always know it. He
I think
wouldn't
that's
stop
like
knowing it.
not the same thing, bro. Like,
Okay,
it's
cool.
not
So
the
then
same
God doesn't
thing.
know that. Okay, look, it's either the case that God knows what is actual or he doesn't. If you're going to say that God knows what is actual, then God knows that it's then when you didn't exist, God knew that state of affairs.
Like for example, when I say like right now where I'm at, it's raining, right? When I say it is raining today, it is raining today. Tomorrow, I don't stop believing the proposition it is raining today. Like I don't go from affirming it to not affirming it because the today here is not the same. Right? The today here would be a different day now. So now I'm either affirming or denying a different proposition. And I'm still affirming the proposition that I made yesterday. Like if someone were to say, you said it was raining today. You said yesterday that it was raining today. And I'm like, okay, I did say that because it was raining today yesterday. Right? And now that I'm saying it's not raining today, or are you contradicting yourself? Is God contradicting himself when he affirms a proposition and then denies it? According to them, that's what God would have to be doing because he takes the same proposition, he says it's true, and then he goes from saying it's true to then saying it's false. But obviously, you wouldn't be contradicting yourself if they're not talking about the same day.
That you didn't exist. And then after that, God knows that Elijah Johnson does exist, which I'm taking to be affirmation. So God goes from not affirming that Elijah Johnson exists to affirming that Elijah Johnson exists.
Umar, God only knows true propositions, right?
You're asking for the YouTube is just Abrahamos with 2 A's at the front.
Yeah.
Okay. The proposition
Was the proposition Elijah Johnson exists always true?
Okay, listen. The proposition Elijah exists is only true insofar as the time in which Elijah exists.
I'm not asking Elijah Johnson will exist. You just keep acting like a bot. I'm not asking if God knows Elijah Johnson will exist at T2 or T3 or whatever. I'm asking if God knows that Elijah Johnson exists now.
Different bodies.
Does he know? Obviously, bro. But he doesn't.
Does he eternally know that Elijah Johnson exists now?
Obviously, he would eternally know.
No, notice. Now he's asking him, does God eternally know that, and this is when the proposition starts, Elijah Johnson exists now. Okay, now. When is now? Well, it would be the day that they had this conversation, right? So whenever that was, let's suppose that he posted on the same day. I don't think he did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say it was 26. So now. So this would be the same as asking, that Elijah Johnson exists April 26, 2026. Because that's just what the now refers to. Okay? So let's see what he says going
That
from
Elijah Johnson exists at this point in time.
No,
The
now,
thing that is
now,
known
present,
is
present.
present. Again, the present being April 26, 2026.
what is wrong with you? I've answered this question like 8 times.
Present.
So Elijah Johnson existing is relative to this present time and the time in which I was born.
Relative to
That's
this
the-
present time. Oh my God. All you're doing is just saying that God knows that you will exist at T1 or T2. I'm not asking if he knows that you will exist. I'm talking about the state of affairs when you didn't exist versus the state of affairs that you do exist. Because if you don't accept that, then God doesn't know what's actual.
What is wrong with you guys? No.
Yo, just drop this guy. This guy's
Oh,
shit, bro. Honestly, like I thought, Elijah Johnson, I thought that you were better than this.
He doesn't even give a refutation to his position because he understands that he's saying that the proposition is relative to that point, to a point in time, and he gives no counter argument to it.
You're
It's
ass,
just
bro.
false. Everything that you're saying is literally
And
just
you
false.
also today look just
You want
and
me
obviously
to
today
say that
you
God's opinion.
you not only got clipped getting trashed on all these arguments.
Are you
Rounds,
refutation
bro.
to anything?
This guy's trash. Yo, Elijah Johnson, review this conversation on your YouTube, all right?
Review this conversation, yada yada. You know, I'm glad he didn't review it because Elijah, he's rich and famous now, and he got too many viewers, bro. He just don't got time to be giving attention to these little dudes, bro. Like, anyways, guys, that was that debate. So as you can see, after accusing Elijah of having the worst arguments of not knowing the position, he proceeds to give the worst argument against classical theism. Because bro thinks that God's knowledge is dependent upon creation. Apparently that's better than whatever Elijah was proposing. But on the other hand, guys, I don't know if you guys seen this, but make sure you guys prepare yourselves. Do not schedule any plans, because we got this coming up. This is going to be Elijah's first formal debate, I think. So we're going to all support him. I don't even know when this is. May 8th. Ooh, bro got a week to prepare. Bro has a week to prepare, and we're going to make sure he's prepared. Is Jesus God versus Metaduki Mike? This should be exciting. Let me like this. Subscribe to here. Let me turn on this bell so I don't miss out. Now, because explain why Sar is the true Thomist, make sure you guys tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, to tell a friend to tell a friend, and to tell another friend. Now, if only I could cover this light somehow, then my camera quality would be a lot better. Now, because of this, I wanted to show you guys a few arguments for Jesus being God. The thing about Mike, I have been told, is that according to Elijah Johnson and others, Mike apparently affirms that Jesus is everything except the same nature, the same being as the Father. So he's all powerful, he's all knowing, he's all good, he's all omnipresent. Like, apparently he's everything but the same nature as the Father, which is pretty dumb. But you know, we gotta to the dumb, we gotta become dumb, as Paul says. So I wanted to go over. I was thinking this in the shower. You know, I was thinking of these in the shower. I was like, these are some arguments that I think should be used. So, a few things, right? He says that Jesus is all these things. Now, he can't say Jesus is not created, because otherwise Jesus wouldn't be a creature, right? So if you're able to argue or present an argument from Scripture that Christ is not created, then he would have to be God, because either you're a creature or you're God, right? I think that's pretty obvious. So here's a few things, a few ways we can go about doing this, okay? Also, having the divine nature. Now, if you have the divine nature, then you're the same being as the Father. Elijah, can you tell me if Mike affirms that Jesus has the divine nature? I don't think he affirms that, right? He doesn't affirm being homoousion. Let me know. But let's just for the time being suppose that he doesn't. So let's do this, right? These are a few syllogisms you can approach the debate with. Does he think the essence is a fourth thing? I don't know, to be honest. He might. He's not even a. I mean, he doesn't even think Christ is God, so I don't even know. Okay, he believes. Okay, perfect. So then we'll say this, right? These are syllogisms that are going to be valid and sound, as we'll see. If Jesus has everything the Father has, and then we'll make this even more explicit. And Jesus has, and the Father has the divine nature, then Jesus has the divine nature. YouTube is like 40 seconds behind TikTok. Thanks for letting me know. Let me zoom out a little bit. So obviously, if you wanted to put this in a syllogism, then it'd just be, let's say, E in conjunction with F, therefore D. So E being everything, F being what the Father has, and then D being the divine nature that Jesus has, right? And then in the second premise, well, then we'll say, let me just copy and paste this. Jesus has everything that the Father has, and the Father has the divine nature. So this is probably one of the more simpler ones, and that's why I like it, because it's so simple. And obviously the conclusion would just be, therefore Jesus has the divine nature. And then I believe this is the correct notation for it, just E conjunction F and D, right? So obviously, I don't think anyone would deny this first premise, because obviously if Jesus has everything the Father has the divine nature, and Jesus has the divine. This is pretty obvious, okay? Like, this is like dang near analytical. This is analytically true. It has to be. The second premise, the Father has the divine nature. Obviously, he has the divine nature. Yeah, I'm gonna get to that, Elijah. So, now he's gonna say, Jesus has everything the Father has, and then obviously we can just go to that verse in, I forgot what John what. John 15 or John 15:14 or John 15:15. No, wait, no. John 16:15. Yeah. So we go to John 16:15 that says, all that the Father has belongs to me. Okay. Now there's a few objections, like you said he's gonna bring forth, right? So he's gonna say, well, does the Son beget? Because obviously the Father begets. Now, if he brings up that objection, then obviously we can say that if you take begetting just considered in itself as an operation, which is the act of intellection, then you can say that the Son has it. Now, the paternity one, that's more interesting, because I low-key forgot about paternity. I low-key forgot about paternity, dog, because that's the relation that's unique to the Father. So, with respect to paternity, the Son can't have paternity, dog. Okay, we'll put that one on the back burner then. Now, this is another easy one that we could go to, which is the Son having life in himself. What verse is that? John 5:26. Okay, and you could frame it as, if the Son has life in himself, then the Son is uncreated. The Son has life in himself. Or actually, you would just say, if the Son is uncreated, then the Son is God. The Son has life in himself. Therefore, the Son is uncreated. And then 5, therefore the Son is God. Shave that stash? Nah, bro, I'm good. Isn't that a hypostatic property of the Father? Yeah, so I mean, our response to that would be that the Father communicates to the Son all things that the Father has that are not repugnant to the Son. So obviously, you can't communicate to the Son paternity, because paternity would just be repugnant to the personhood of the Son. You can't be your own Father. But then he's probably going to try to argue that, oh, well, the divine nature is also repugnant to the Son or something. But with this argument, you could obviously, it's based on John 5:26. And I believe what the objection that Jordan had brought up was the fact that according to the verse, he's just going to say that it's talking about the power to give life. However, I don't think that's how you'd be able to read the verse, right? For the Father has life in himself. So it's not talking about the power to give life. I think it could just refer to the nature, maybe with patristic support, because it'd be really easy the way Son participates in paternity is. So, if the Father has life in himself, we have to understand, what does it mean for the Father to have life in himself. Now remember, having life in yourself is not the same thing as having the power to give life. If you have life in himself, that means life is an essential property to you, right? So it would mean that you exist necessarily. Now, if you exist necessarily, then it seems to follow you're not created. And it says that the Father has given this to the Son. Now, he might argue, the only thing I could see him arguing is that, well, if this refers to like aseity or something, how could the Father give aseity to the Son? Because that seems to imply a contradiction, right? Now, we can actually respond to that by saying that he gives it to the Son in begetting him, right? And begetting the Son isn't some movement from potency to act. It's something that's purely actual. That's always the case, right? And so this could actually explain how it can be given to the Son to have a life in himself, or to have aseity, right? But he's not going to be able to explain this away, because he would then have to just say, well, actually having life in himself just means the power to give life. So not only is it changing the text, but then he would say that the Son has the power to give life. That's essential, because Christ only has a human nature. So does Christ create a human? Does the Father create a human nature that has? Does the Father create a human nature that specifically has the power to give life? Essentially, that doesn't even make sense. Because if he only has the human nature, then the only thing that's essential is to be a body and a soul. Someone asked, why does having life in himself necessarily mean uncreated? Because you're saying that life is intrinsic to you. And if you're created, that means it's not intrinsic. That means you were given life. So there's that. Honestly, I don't know. I feel like he probably has responded to this one, but I don't know what he'll say. John 1:3, there's obviously that one. You already know that one, Elijah, so I'm not even gonna explain it for real. So the Father has life in himself. All things that the Father has are mine. Ooh, there was also this one that I wanted to point out. This one is kind of like the first one, but I think it avoids the whole paternity issue. So John 5:19, basically the verse that says the Son does whatever the Father does. Right? Okay. So here's the argument. I forgot how I would formalize this. Do it for us, not Elijah. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, John 1:3, it says that. Here, I'll copy and paste it onto the Word doc. It says that all things were made through him. Without him, nothing was made that has been made, right? So explicitly says that nothing was made that has been made without him, right? So if something, basically saying that if something came into existence, it came into existence through him. And that's how some translations even translate this as. You can't see it here, but if I zoom in. All things came into being through him, and without him, not even one thing came into being that has come into being, right? So if it's the case that, according to this verse, it would have to be the case that if Christ came into being, then Christ came into being through Christ, because Christ is the one being spoken of here. Now, this is a contradiction, right? In order for something to come into being through Christ, it means that Christ has to already exist before that thing. But if Christ came into being through Christ, that means Christ has to exist after that thing which he came through. So it's going to have to be the case that he did not come into being. Otherwise, a contradiction is entailed, right? So then we would just negate this second statement and say, it is not the case that Christ came into being through Christ. Therefore, it is not the case that Christ came into being, right? And obviously, if he didn't come into being, then he's eternal. He has a weird view on John 1. Yeah, but honestly, Elijah, that still helps you, because if your view is more intuitive and simpler and is more clearly drawn from the text, his weird view, it might not help him because he has a weird view, but it is going to help those people watching and be like, I mean, what this guy is making sense and it's clearly drawn forth from the text. But what this other guy is saying, I don't get anything what this other guy is saying. It just seems like he's coping, right? So that's the argument from John 1:3. So the argument from John 5:19 saying that we're going to focus in on this part of the verse, which is that whatever the Father does, the Son does likewise. So this is what John 5:19 says. And the argument for this is going to be because actions are obviously, the kind of action a being produces is going to be with respect to the kind of nature they have, right? So, for example, the act of flying is proper to birds because it's proper to their nature, right? The nature of a bird to fly, but it's not proper to the nature of a human to fly. Hence, humans cannot fly. So yeah, the kind of action you do is going to be specific to the kind of nature you have. Now, Filioque argue against the Arians. I can't even remember what that one is. So if you were to formulate this as saying, how would you how did I formulate this when I was thinking about it in the shower? So you want to say that there are certain actions that then the Son or maybe not unique but specific or proper there are actions that are not property, but proper to the divine nature. Let me see. This is my rough draft. Let me do my rough draft of this first. Then whoever does these actions necessarily has a divine nature. And then we could say trying to think of what to put here. We got to include the Father in here. Bro, I already told you why having life in himself is going to be entailed that you're uncreated. Because if you're created, then you've been given life. What do you mean if someone is uncreated, why does that make them God? Because God is the only thing that's not created. Everything else is created, bro. How would I formulate this, bro? And whoever does these acts necessarily has a divine nature. You know what, bro? We're gonna do the unthinkable. Whoa, what is this? Let's see what it comes up with. We're doing the Dom method. We're doing the Dom method. Up? You're requesting? Oh my gosh. You graced me with your presence.
Oh my days. We just sent y'all home now. Let me see. What does it say?
The sun does whatever. Why can't I hear myself? So let's see. Why is it giving me?
Oh, because I was listening on YouTube. I mean YT at first.
The son does whatever the father does. Okay. Therefore, the son. Okay, I'll mess with this. I'll mess with it. Let me
Wait, I can't see it.
You can't see it? Alright. Hold on. I'll show you.
Alright, go ahead.
Let me just put this on the same page. You can't see that right there?
Divine nature can do all the works. Yeah, no, I can't. Only a being with a divine nature can do all the works that God does. I'm assuming. Oh, that God the Father does. The Son does whatever the Father does. Therefore, the Son also possesses a divine nature. Ooh. Okay.
Claude kind of cooked. Now this one you don't have to worry about the paternity thing because paternity is not a work or it's not an action.
I mean, it's a notional act.
Well, no, begetting is the notional act, but then you can just say that
but
the son has
paternity
this.
is just a relation. Yeah, I get you.
You can say the son has that as the act of the intellect.
Yeah. Like, so only a being with the divine nature can do all the works that God the Father does. The Son does whatever the Father does. Therefore, the Son possesses the divine nature. Dang, hold on. How would you? Hold on. How would you? Because you have to refute premise one.
Yeah.
I mean, he could just say no, that's not the case, because he could just beg the question, but he could just say no, it's not the case, because Jesus does not have the divine nature, but does the works that the Father does. He could just say that Jesus is human and does the works that the Father does, so you don't need the divine nature. He could just.
Now, how would he interpret a verse like the one in the Old Testament that says, I am the one, don't need a gun.
And that's what I was thinking, like maybe if you go from here to show that the works of the Father is creation. So if Jesus obviously creates, then he would have to have the divine nature.
Because there's this verse that says,
oh yeah, there's that too.
Oh, I guess not all of them use the word one. What the Hebrew be saying? They got the word one in the Hebrew.
Oh, where he says, I am the one?
Yeah, like I think there's
another verse though that says that he's the one. I think it's in Jeremiah. That I alone search the hearts and minds. Something like that.
Hi, the Lord.
Yeah, Jeremiah 17.
Hi, the Lord. That's for you.
Wait, go up. What was that one? I said, I, the Lord, am the one that searches the heart and mind. Go up a little bit more.
Nah, I don't say that.
It didn't say I am the one that searches the hearts and mind?
Yeah.
The Berean literal Bible. We're going to have to start using that. That cookie lucky.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like there is some way that you could just prove this first premise, because um, I mean, he has to say that there is a certain action that God can do that no other created being can do. Like, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't. I that's what you would think, but I don't know what his like like. Where does it end? You know, like what is the thing that only God could do? And I feel like it's going to be like be the Father. Like I feel like it's going to be something like that. Like
It's not even an
only God could be
action.
the Father. Yeah, like what is lifestyle? What are you asking? If something is granted, that implies dependence on a source, not absolute independence. That's not necessarily true. Um, like you could have things that are even inherited, uh, or whatever the case may be, but that doesn't mean that like this was something that he didn't have before. Like in the Old Testament, where it talks about Yahweh inherits the earth, or when it talks about Yahweh being exalted, all of these things which are given to Yahweh, it doesn't mean that he didn't have these things previously. So being granted something doesn't mean that you're dependent upon the thing. It could just be the revealing of said thing. Um, so no, that's not true. Therefore, the Son possesses divine nature. If there is a certain act that can only be done, I feel like I only have time for one argument, but if I could run something easy, that'd be fire during cross exam.
Yeah. What's his view on John 1 that you're saying it was weird?
Bro, I watched a video. I think it was this morning or something. He said, well, first John 1:1. He's like, yeah, when you have theos that without the definite article, then it works as an adjective. So it's not taught. He for some reason he means that it's not talking about the nature, so it's not calling the word God. But then he says like, yeah, God creates everything through His logos, through His reason, through His word. And then he says you could say that Jesus is the word, which means that Jesus created everything. But I'm like, how if Jesus is the word? Like that's just such a weird. What's your view then, bro? Like.
If you get him to say Jesus is the Word, then you could just rhetoric farm and be like, well, if Jesus is the Word, then Jesus is eternal, because the Word is eternal.
Yeah, but because God always has His word. Like, I mean, I think that you could just, but He doesn't care. That's the thing. That's the weird thing is that like He's like, bro, you can say that Jesus pre-exists. You can say that Jesus is eternal. You can say all these things. It doesn't mean that He's almost like He has the same essence as the Father. That's His view. So you have to prove that like it's necessary that He has the same essence. That's the weird thing. Like he'd be like, yeah, Jesus called Yahweh. So what? Like, bro, what? But my concern is with the people in his chat, like the people who follow him. He blatantly tell people not to follow the Trinity. Like we do all of that stuff. That's just so wicked, bro. And they be like, yes, Mike, you go. You're so good, Mike. His arguments be like premise 1. If Jesus is not the Father, premise 2. Like,
Oh my gosh, bro, that shit's terrible. Okay, this one might not be valid, but I think it
if
still
X
makes
doesn't
sense.
have some proper to the divine nature, then X must have the divine nature. X doesn't actually proper to the divine nature. Who's angry? You're gonna be like, what are those actions?
There has to be one. Like,
There-
there's no way that God could just make a creature do whatever He do.
I don't know what's the things that is like Hold on. He said, okay, no. I remember watching one of his videos. He said that like things that only God has is like the omniscience, the omnipotence. So it's like if Jesus knows all things,
Doesn't he
and
affirm that Jesus knows all things though?
I mean, you would have to. Is that the one and only Ao, the goat? Him? I was just talking about Ao, bruh. Glory be to God, but it's
Oh
still
my
kicking
god,
it,
Ayo
man.
just destroyed Christianity with one syllogism, bro.
Yeah, man.
Oh my god. Ayo, Elijah's got a debate coming up, so make sure you come and support May 8th.
No, bro, don't.
Don't support. Never mind, don't support.
What's the deal, Dink?
This one is not gonna be valid, but I think it still gets the point across. Because then you could say, ooh, okay, never mind. I think I can make it valid.
That's exactly what I said.
Ergo, etc. Okay. So now let's prove the second premise, and you could just say,
Preparing for him is insanity. It's not for Mike. It's for the people in the chat. It's for the people who follow him. And you should never underestimate your opponent. That's your favorite video? That's for sure. When am I debating Mike at age? I already cooked, so I think you can cook no prep. Nah. But you gotta prove that Jesus has the same essence as the Father. He's gonna grant you that Jesus has all like the divine like properties, but that don't mean that he got the same divine essence, bro. That's his stance. Jesus, he said that Jesus can have divine titles, Jesus can have divine attributes, but that don't mean that he has the same essence as the Father. That's his stance.
okay, I think I formalized it. And this one, I don't think there is a premise he could reject. It's not
If
even on
X
the
is
full
an
screen.
if X has action proper to the divine nature, then X must have the divine nature. The Son does actions proper to the divine nature, therefore, the Son must have the divine nature. If the Son does whatever the Father does, and the Father does actions proper to the divine nature, then the Son does actions proper to the divine nature. For conclusion one, the Son does whatever the Father does, and the Father does actions to the divine nature. Oh, go. The Son does actions proper to the divine nature. No, he thinks that Jesus has one essence, the human essence. So he doesn't necessarily think that Jesus pre-existed, but he says that you can affirm pre-existence, and it doesn't mean that he has the same nature.
So all you would have to show here is that
There's some action that Jesus does that's proper to the divine nature.
I mean, you would show that based on 519, that says whatever the Father does, the Son does.
Oh, because the Father does some actions that are proper to the divine nature.
Yes.
I see what you're saying.
Now you could contest this first premise. The only way he would contest it is by saying that there is no action that is unique to the divine nature. That basically anything that God could do is possible for a creature to do.
Exactly,
which seems ridiculous. But if he agrees to the fact that there are some things that only God can do, then this would follow. Now the other one, Elijah, that I think is low-key underused, I feel like no one really talks about this, is that only God can be worshipped.
Nah, he believed that. That's fine.
It's fine to worship a creature?
Yeah.
You're lying. You're
I
lying.
swear, bro. He says that like he could receive worship, all of that, because
Nah,
God
that
let it.
just contradicts the
God,
Bible.
he said that God let it happen, right? Like God chose him to receive. Exactly. You see how this is what I'm saying? It's not like
I mean,
a simple thing.
you could provide an argument from scripture. I think that's the easier way to go. But if you wanted to go the
Right.
even harder way, there's arguments from reason that show that it's only worship is only proper to God.
Yeah, nah, gang. He and then he got. I asked him. I was like, "So you think that Jesus
That's literally
is just
against
a
reason.
yeah?" But I
Nah,
asked him. I was like, "So you think that Jesus is just a human person that God chose to like give us salvation?" And he was like, I think some of the things for salvation is like metaphorical. I didn't get to get clarity as to what that meant because I was on like a three-way phone call with him, but I don't I don't even know how his salvation stuff works. Sharing in divine actions does not logically entail sharing the divine nature. Dang.
Okay, so
So nature. Okay, go ahead. My fault.
no, finish what you're saying. Sorry.
No. Oh well, nature is going to be the principle of action. So like divine actions, that action is going to be grounded in the thing that you're calling divine, which is the divine nature. So if he's doing divine actions, he would have to have the principle of said action, which is going to be the divine nature. Um, so Jesus does everything that the Father does. There's going to be some action that is proper to the divine nature, which I think that's how we can formulate the premise that there are some actions that the Father does that is proper to the divine nature, and Jesus does all things that the Father does, or everything that the Father does, the Son does. Um, then he would have to have the divine nature to do
Yeah.
such actions.
And even if he has a response, that doesn't mean his response is gonna be good, bruh. And I think that's sufficient, to be honest. It's like it's like when you told that Muslim that you think God is dependent on his knowledge is dependent on creation. He's like, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not a response, bro.
Right. Homie said, give me strong evidence. For what, man? Like, you need to just watch your boy live. Like, go watch Dom or something, bro. Like,
Hey, cynical.
oh, I met you. I met you. Shout out to Cynical Synergy. God bless you.
Yeah.
Let me follow.
I don't even know if I'm following her. I need to follow her.
Shout out to Cynical. It's very, very
You
nice.
guys met
Yeah,
at the
that's
IP conference?
it wasn't his conference, but yeah, we went there.
Oh, okay. I forgot. That she got
He
ownership.
was
We got
popular too. They was like, God Logic was like, you're cynical? Oh, I was like, dang, she got more shit.
How's that Filioque presentation, cynical? Have you read through it? But yeah, this is really weird to me because even if he's gonna, what does he think that Christ was made worthy of worship like after his resurrection or something?
So it has to be something like that.
Because
Like,
obviously it can't be during his earthly ministry because during his earthly ministry he tells the Satan that you should only worship God, right?
yeah.
And even in Revelation, which is after Christ has ascended,
What's that word for worship used there? And what is that, Matthew 4?
which one in Matthew 4:10?
Yeah, where he says that we need to only worship God and worship none but God alone or something like that. What's is it proskuneo or the true?
Yes, proskynesis.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, we're going over some arguments Elijah can use in his upcoming debate May 8th. So make sure you tell your friends to watch.
This is gonna feed all of this to metaphysics.
It don't matter, bro. This is how debates used to happen, bro. Folks wasn't scared. They was scared about serve is latria. This ain't Latin crumbs. Current thing we reading in
No,
Latin.
Latria is
Oh,
Latria
he's
is
saying
Greek.
this one is Latria. Oh,
Yeah,
see that?
yeah, exactly. And they'll say that, oh, the sun never gets Latria, but he does in Revelation. But Latria is specifically for God alone, which is why, in Nicaea too, they say that proskuneo can be given to the images, but not Latria, which is reserved for God alone.
That's why in Revelations 5, I mean, is this not Latria? Like,
That is Latria.
In the Greek,
Yeah,
that's Latria?
yeah, I'm pretty sure. I know, I say proskuneo. It's Latria somewhere.
I could just do this.
Oh,
Because even if it's not Latria in context, I feel like it's still clearly like something that's due to God alone. They're saying like all dominion and glory and power to God
yeah,
and to the Lamb. Like, bro.
yeah. Yeah, exactly, Carlos. That's not okay. Revelation 7. Revelation 7:15, I think.
Who's that talking about?
I think it's both. Yeah. Therefore, before the throne of God, they serve him day and night in the temple. He sits on the throne and dwells among them. Yeah. What's the name? The throne of God, like the Lamb, is literally in the middle of the throne. But it said like that. So he said, yeah, but he said, so he said to me, these are who come out of the great tribulation, washed their robes, and made them white with the blood of the Lamb. Therefore, they are before the throne of God and serve him day and night in his temple. And there's so many scriptures in Revelation where the Lamb is on the throne.
And
The
it even
Lamb
says
is the
here, for the
temple.
Lamb is who is in the midst of the throne, will shepherd
Yeah,
and
exactly.
lead them.
Yeah.
There's also another verse that it pointed out. 22.
We drove Nick and IP all over LA to do dollar hunting when we only ran into Jehovah's Witnesses. That sucks. Driving all over LA on a Friday? That sounds awful.
But the throne of God and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. They shall see his face, and his name shall be on their forehead. Whose name is on their foreheads?
Oh, you got like that's a rhetorical question?
No, I'm asking you. I can't remember.
But God, like Christ's name,
Is it Christ or the Father's?
they shall see his face, and his name shall be on their foreheads, and there should be no night there, no need for lamp. Yes, Christ's name. I think it talks about in the previous chapter. In Revelation 21. It talks about his name.
Is it this one?
No. Let me go before that.
What am I reading, bro?
It's in the scriptures before though, where it talks about his name. Maybe in 19, because I know that talks about, but it talks about like the name that no one knows, that he himself knows, and this is like the word of God. Just take my recollection of scripture as long. And then yeah. I think in Revelation, not 5, But when it talks about like the 144,000 and it talks about the name that is written on their head, it's like it's Christ's name or God's name. Bro, why are you just looking up everything that I'm saying?
I want to see it, bro.
Yeah, go to Revelation 7.
Ain't no name in here, bro. He lied to me.
No, bro. What's on their head? It says that they sing a new song. And hold on, let me go look for it. Because you asked me to get this scripture from the top of my head.
I don't know why I just don't. I feel like I'm doing it way harder than what it has to be done. I think I just go here.
Wait, Revelation 3:12, where the promised overcomer is what? Where the overcomer is promised God's name written upon them. Revelation 3:12.
That worship stuff is crazy though.
Yeah, see? That's Christ. On his victorious, I'll make a pillar in the temple of my God, and every nail that leave it, I will write on them the name of my God, the name of the city of my God, the new Jerusalem, which is coming out of heaven. I will also write on them my new name.
My new name.
Yeah.
So then he probably just gonna say that this is just the name of the Father then.
No, that's Christ, because Christ's new name is Jesus, previously known as obviously like Yahweh, but the name that is given at his birth is Jesus.
Grammatically, wouldn't this hymn be referring to the most recent subject, the Lamb?
Yeah, of course.
Abe,
But I remember,
Eli, and I had to explain to Nick how
how
priests
priest
shouldn't marry.
yeah, cynical was locked in.
Oh, you're saying that. You're saying Abe, Eli, and I had to explain. Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you're saying I was explaining. I was like, what? Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that priests shouldn't marry him. That's literally what Paul talks about. He talks about how when you're not married, you're more focused on the things of God. So it's just like, it's just better for real. I don't know. Ayo said that he wants to get married and become a priest in the Eastern Rite, though. So I don't know. You tell me. Nah, what did Nick say in response to that? He said, "Nah, I want to be Dooney's."
Yeah, pretty much. He said, I ain't Catholic, man. They ain't twisted.
It's crazy.
And then, because they were saying that, like, I should become a priest, and then they looked dead at my fiance and was like, yeah, you're cooked. Like, you're done.
There's a good video on the practice of celibacy in the priesthood.
Oh, yeah, he said Peter was married. And then I think he said Paul was married, too.
Paul was not married, bro. What?
That's what I said.
What are we talking about?
If Nick say it, it's law. So I was like, dang, I ain't none.
This video right here is a good video on priestly celibacy.
Well, thank you, Seneca. I appreciate that. I mean, I ain't creator, but I appreciate the compliment.
Wait, I don't even think it was a year ago.
I watch no videos that say. I don't even watch creators that say Gavin Orton.
This one is really good too. From Distingual. These videos are fire. Let's just Google real quick. Let's see what Google say.
Sharing the throne or being mentioned together. The throne is supposed to represent their power and authority. So that means that they have the same power and authority, right? And you know what he keeps saying? He keeps saying that the Father alone is God by identity, and the Son is just God by predication.
That Jesuwadi stuff.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
it's
you
like,
guys can ask questions if you want right now. It's fine. No cafe. Type in your questions. Like we have Elijah Johnson right now. He said he's infallible right now. So
I don't even feel like break that down. Because then he's just saying that, one, he's saying that the Father could be instantiated. And two, like Jesus just is the Father. Like just
you're predicating the Father to Jesus.
yeah, you're just predicating the Father to Jesus, bro. Like that's it. That's all you're doing, bro. So if the Father has a divine nature, Jesus is just the Father by predication, right? That's all you're saying.
Nah, but in his explanations, he's the way he explains it, he's like, oh, that's just the name that's given to the. It's like a nominal thing, but if it's a nominal thing, that doesn't even really respond to the objection there, because he still admits you have three gods in a predicative sense and just one God in a nominal sense. It's like no one cares about the nominal sense, bro.
You talking about Sibuwadi? I'm talking about Mike.
Oh yeah, you talking about Mike? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know about Mike, bro.
Because he likens the divine nature to like being attractive and smart. He like Bruce Wayne is attractive and smart, but these are things by predication. You could predicate these things to Bruce Wayne. That doesn't mean that he's identical to attractive and smart.
I see your question, no calf. I'm gonna point you to a chapter in the compendium that talks about this.
What's his question?
He says, God is purely actual, but I feel as if the Father actualizes the Son, so the existence of the Trinity as God is a problem.
Who told you to have feelings, bro? What are we doing?
Bro thinks he can have emotions, bro.
Yeah, man. Lock it in. What's a better understanding of what, Jethro? Is this the Jethro that we was talking to last night? Oh man. Man, the old okie doke, hey yo. That's what they hitting us with. We fell for it. We fell for their trap, man. I gotta send you my first draft of my opening statement though. Hey,
What's up? You're gonna send
I
your
gotta
draft your opening?
yeah.
Bet. What's the chapter in here that he talks about the arguments against the generation of the Son? Is it even in the compendium, bro?
I don't know. I didn't read that in the computer. I know we do talk about it though. Charles Rene Billard. Is he a saint?
Yeah,
Billard's a saint?
pretty sure he is. Yeah.
Hey, bro, I'm telling you, that's one of the strongest arguments for Catholicism, bro. They got so many people that was locked in after the schism, bro. You can't even put together a starting five on the EO side after
Oh,
the
he said
schism,
no,
bro.
he not. Yo, why we
Oh,
capping right now?
yeah, nah. You was on the phone.
No, but for
I'm not
half a
thinking of
second.
Bellarmine, bro. I always get those
Probably,
two
but
conflicts.
I was reading Anselm. I'ma just take Anselm stuff, bro, and I'ma just make videos out of that. Anselm got like a low key dialogue with Trifold type of thing that he got going on,
For
where
the
he was
AI
talking with
overview,
this
bro.
one dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got a like where he just be answering the dude questions. The dude's like, "Yeah, you right, but what about this?" And then Anselm just break it down. I might have to just make videos of just their conversation to simplify it a little bit. Because Anselm was really talking that talk.
Anselm's underrated.
Anselm really is underrated. I didn't know. but he's actually pretty locked.
I'm gonna get you that answer, Cave. I just want to cite Aquinas when I answer it. I guess it's not in his compendium. I think it's in his Contra Gentiles.
Hey yo, drop your top 5 EO scholars or whatever after the schism. Like who after the schism who's really spitting. Hey, you gotta know, first round pick on the Catholic side is Aquinas. So like I don't know who y'all got over there that's of Aquinas level. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro. It's like after the schism.
I think Ayo gotta know some. I feel like
Yeah, you gotta.
Some, it's him.
First round pick for the Catholics is Aquinas, so I need to know at least a top 3. Like who them ones for real after the schism. EO Saints, where you're like, yeah, bro, he's super locked in. They have separate topics in defense. Jay Dyer.
Bro, capping, bro.
Should have only translated Suarez. All right, bro. His propaganda is gonna get me, bro. I'm gonna really have to do a deep dive into Suarez. I don't like the way Suarez talk, bro. Like he just don't speak my language. He speaks like another like smarter language than me.
Okay, I can't find the exact place in St. Thomas's work, but basically the answer to your question, no calf, is because remember the procession of the sun is the act of intellection, and when it comes to the creaturely act of intellection, when we know something, right, the thing that we know actualizes our knowledge of it, right? So our intellect goes from potency to act and then produces the image within our mind, right? Hence, that image would not be pure act, right? But in God, his intellect is infinite and perfect. His intellect is not going from potency to act. His intellect is always eternally actual. So that image would also be eternally actual. And that's basically the response to that objection. And I'm just keep looking for it to see what.
That don't mean that they got the same divine nature though. Procession/origination does not equal actualization.
Yeah.
I think if you just hold down the equal sign, I think that there's an actual.
I don't think so.
Nah, I think so. I think if you just hold down the equal sign, there's Luis de Losada is a lot easier to read.
There is one.
Yeah, I ain't never read him. Can you send me a work of his?
The word produce insinuates potential and actual. Yeah, but remember that
or is it on your
about
academia?
God, we're always going to be using words analogically, right? So there's some aspect of the word that's applied to God, and then some aspect that's denied. Like when we say that God is our rock, or when we say that God is, like the scripture, it calls God our rock, right? It's taking those perfections within the rock, like the fact that it's strong and that it's just the fact that it's strong, really, and it's applying that perfection to God, and it's taking the imperfections, like the fact that it's material, changeable, and all these things. Those aren't applied to God. So when we're talking about producing something, the only thing that we're talking about is the fact that it has an origin, right? We're not applying to God that movement from potential to actual. Abe, you need to add a thumbnail image to your live on YT. Isn't there a thumbnail image, bro? I thought I added one. It was the image that they uploaded with just reviewed on top.
Yeah.
Gosh, man, where does
I'm
this?
getting more. I hate that I'm getting more popular. People starting to make thumbnails of me crying and stuff.
Nah, yeah, that's what they did.
I didn't even notice until you posted it today. I look. I was like, am I crying? Yeah. I was like,
yeah.
I was like, bro, am I crying?
Yeah, they got bro crying here. What the hell, bro?
They said, bro, you believe God not dependent? Crazy, bro.
Crazy, bro.
What's up? Oh, I gotta go. Love you, man.
Love you too, bro. Bye. Yeah, this is him crying. But where is this section, bro? I swear it was in the compendium, bro. Maybe Claude knows, bro. The Dom method. I'm looking for the place in Aquinas' works. I think it was either in the Summa contra Gentiles or it was in the compendium where he talks about arguments against the generation in God and then their refutation. It's not in the Summa Theologia. That's all I know for sure. That's at least not the one I'm looking for. Book 4, chapters 10 to 14. Oh, yeah, it's right here actually. Okay, cool. I'm gonna make it on this left side. I feel like it'll be easier to read. Can I make this left side English, bro? Where's the option to make it English? So let's read arguments against divine. Let's read first the arguments against. So here's what he says. Now that we have considered the whole question carefully, we see clearly that sacred scripture requires us to believe that the Father and the Son, though distinct in person, are nevertheless one God having one essence or nature. Since, however, it is far removed from the nature of creatures that any two things should be distinct supposita and yet have one essence, human reason, which takes its principles from the properties of creatures, encounters many difficulties in the mystery of divine generation. Foreseeing that the divine generation which comes under our observation is a kind of change, right? So this is exactly what you're asking, NoCaf. That divine generation is a kind of change. Check Discord? I'll check it. Do you want me to check it on the stream or off the stream? Seeing that it seems that there can scarcely be generation in God who is unchangeable, incorruptible, and eternal, as we have proved. Again, if generation is a change, then whatever is generated must be changeable. Now that which is changed passes from potency to act, because movement is the act of that which is in potency. As such, accordingly, if the Son of God is begotten, seemingly he is not eternal, for he would pass from potency to act. Neither would he be God, because he would not be pure act, but something with an admixture of potency. Further, if that which is begotten receives its nature from the begetter, therefore the Son is begotten of the Father, it follows that he receives his nature from the Father. But it is impossible that he received from the Father a nature numerically distinct from the Father's, yet specifically the same, as happens in univocal generations. These are other arguments, but basically we're sticking on these, the ones that seem to imply change. We go down to chapter 14. And this is his response. For it is clear from what already has been established, in God we place an intelligible begetting, but not such as obtains in material things, the engendering of which is a kind of change and the opposite of corruption. For even the word of our intellect is conceived without change, nor is there a corruption that is opposite it. And we have already explained how the begetting of the Son is like the conception of that same word. In like manner, the word conceived in our minds does not pass from potency to act insofar as our intellect passes from potency to act, and yet the word is not begotten of our intellect until the latter is in act. And as soon as it is in act, the conceived word is there. But the divine intellect is never in potency, but only in act, as we have proved. Therefore, it begets the word without passing from potency to act, just as one act gives rise to another. For example, light to brightness, and the intellect in act to the idea. So you can conceive without change. Yeah, so I think what he's talking about is that before the idea is there, and when the idea comes to be, that right there is not a change, at least strictly speaking, within the idea, because a change would be a movement from potency to act, and before the idea is there is no potency, right? But when the idea comes to be, there is an actuality. So, like, it wouldn't be a change in that sense, because there is no potency being actualized. There is just something that is an act that is coming into being, right? So it's kind of similar to how St. Thomas Aquinas describes creation ex nihilo. Like, the creation is changing only after it's been created, because before it's been created, nothing exists, right? Before it's been created, nothing exists, so there is no potency being actualized. So technically, I'll show you the link in a bit. Technically, the God bringing creation into existence from nothing is not exactly a change, but it's only after the fact that this existence has begun to exist that it's now changing. Now the difference here is that the word in God's mind is not there is no point in time when the word isn't, right? The word is eternal. The word always was, and the word always was actual. So there is no movement of potential from actual, because the word always just is. Whereas in creatures, there is a time when creatures begin, and then they're continued to be changed after that. So he says, therefore it is clear also that by begetting the Son of God is nonetheless true God or eternal. Rather, in fact, he must be co-eternal with God, whose word he is, since the intellect in act is never without its word. Generation is not in act. Perfect knowledge makes it actualized as it's conceptual. It's one instance. So maybe I'm just reading that wrong, but I can't understand that. Oh, so if you want to access this site, it's just aquinas.cc. I'm going to type it in the YT chat. Aquinas.cc, and then it has all Aquinas' works. And you can just go to Summa Contra Gentiles, book 4, chapter 14. 10 to look at the argument, 4 to look at the refutation. And yeah, hopefully that helps you. Look at 10 and 14 in book 4, Summa Contra Gentiles. Yeah, see what you guys saying here. You can define an article of faith with reason without to prove it from reason. Yeah, true, doctor. Sorry, it's a bad habit. Yeah, sorry. I always say it's just a bad habit I need to get rid of. I need to stop saying Aquinas, just start saying St. Thomas, bro. Fortunately, many such cases. Yeah, so chapters 10 to look at the argument, chapter 14 to look at this refutation. Wow, we got 29 people here on YT. Wow, what's up, guys? We reviewed Elijah's debate where he mollywopped some Muslims. Make sure, guys, if you guys don't know, no problem, bro. Is the cynical respond? Oh, that's what you see appearing. Okay, thank you, cynical. So if you guys don't know, make sure you know, and make sure you tell your friends. Elijah Johnson has a debate coming up, a formal debate with Metaduki Mike. May 8th, 2026. I don't know what time. I don't think it says the time. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Always got to start with the low tiers. Exactly, Ayo. You got to build your way up. You can't just go fight the champ, Muhammad Hijab the champ in your first day. That's free XP for Elijah, amen. Elijah's trying to XP farm, bro. I told him. It's on GL 2.0. Yes, it is. Make sure you guys tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Yeah, we finished the debate. Basically, that was it. Level 1 goon versus level 100 boss. Exactly. So right now, guys, we're just doing questions. So if you guys have any questions about the Catholic Church, the Christian faith, we're answering those questions. So I guess I could take this off the screen. Actually, I think it'd just be easier if I don't take it off the screen and I just do this. Man, when will eventually we'll reach Zakir Naik? Well, if Elijah, how old is Zakir Naik, bro? Ain't no way, bro, is still in the flower of his youth. I need to make this. So guys, ask your questions. Is it true St. Augustine think too hard and invented the Filioque way? Well, someone in my chat the other day told me that he was just writing too much. My numbers are going up like Eli soon. Holy Spirit said so, amen. It says 8:30 and you're on Central Time? Okay, so that's 8:30 Central Time. That's when the debate will go down. Zakir Naik? Let's see how old Zakir Naik is, bro. Is his last name actually Naik? I spelled it wrong, right? Yeah. Sure. It's even. Sure. That's the chant. Hey, Zakir Naik debate coming soon, bruh. Elijah's gonna get there. He actually meant energetic procession? No, bruh. 8 by Islamic standards, 9,000 by world time. Nah, that's crazy. Muslims say that Zakir Naik actually is 20 years old by their standards. That's crazy. The bad habit is calling Aquinas instead of St. Thomas. See, I just did it again. So guys, send in your questions. Christianity Q&A. Any questions you got? I know a lot of you guys like Cynical. I know she's got to have some questions because she's in the thick of it. She's in the deep. She's in those conversations. Do you believe the Son is fully independent, or does he receive anything from the Father? Again, so independent is not going to just be some vague term. We're going to specify what it means to be independent. So to be dependent is going to be to receive some actuality from another, right? We don't think that the Father actualizes anything in the Son. So they wouldn't be dependent on each other in that sense. I'm 23. Energetic procession makes sense. So yeah, if you think that, Ayo, since you're here, bro, hopefully you're still here. I wanted to show you something, which was a few definitions of energetic procession that I got from the top tier apologists on this app. Or eternal manifestation. I think energetic procession can be explained in a way that makes sense. But whenever they try to distinguish it from eternal manifestation, that's when it doesn't really make sense to me. Low-key don't believe in energetic procession. Eternal manifestation is different, though. Yeah, that's what I think energetic procession means. So, eternal manifestation, this is what... Hey, I know Nick is infallible, so you gotta respect this. Where is it? Where's the slide? Wait. What are we? No, that's yeah. That's energetic. That's energetic, Elijah Lockin. How can full divinity be maintained if it's receiving from another source? Again, because the reception from another source is not like a creaturely reception. It's an eternal one. Bro, I wanted to ask you about divorce. We Catholics don't believe in it, even if there's divorce. Nick threw Matthew 5:31-32 at me. Yeah. This is actually a good question. Now, it's crazy that Nick's trying to argue for divorce here, because that's crazy to me. I misspelled that. Crazy. So they're trying to say that anyone who divorces his wife except for sexual immorality makes her a victim of adultery, and anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery, right? So, one, why do you think Jesus says anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery? What's adultery? Adultery is when you sleep with a married woman. So the divorce here must be talking about a different kind of divorce. It must not be talking about a divorce where the marriage is dissolved. Because if the marriage was dissolved, then it wouldn't be adultery, right? And so let's just see how a few of our commentators comment on this verse. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of church fathers that talk about this too, but I've been testing out this new website, this new commentary, so I'll check it out. I typically think of it as the Son being a necessary precondition to the Spirit. Nah, ayo, that's not what it is, bro. Ayo, lock in. Eternal manifestation is that by which the Father and Son reveal the Spirit to be resting in the Son, bro. That's what Nick said. Lock in, bro. Hold on. Can you see that on TikTok? You can see that. Nick, bro, is abortion bad for Catholics? Yes. Okay, going back to this. So this is what Lapide. If you ever needed to comment on the place in the Bible, Abe, I just started reading St. Augustine Confessions. It cooks, bro. Yes, these lives are recorded, of course. Yeah, but my question, Ao, is like, is this it says, and Nick said it was revealing. So is this revelation necessary? Okay, sorry. I will talk to Ao after this, okay? Ao, you smart enough, bro. Cynical needs help. So this is Lapide. He has a commentary on the entire Bible, and it's not entirely available online, but Crumbs let me know that they're constantly updating the website. So as each month comes by, they're gonna put more and more of his commentary on here. Lapide.org. This is what he writes on this verse. Cajetan and some others repeat the force of, quote, except for the cause of fornication, end quote, as though for the cause of fornication it were lawful for a husband divorcing an adulteress, and for the adulteress herself to enter into a second marriage. But the apostle plainly contradicts this meaning in 1 Corinthians 7:11, where he commands the innocent spouse to remain unmarried or be reconciled to the guilty party. See what was said here. And this is the perpetual usage, understanding, and practice of the church, about which more at chapter 19:9. Christ here corrects and perfects the law of divorce, first because the law easily granted divorce for many reasons, but Christ permits it only for the cause of fornication if the spouse has committed fornication, that is, adultery. For the innocent may separate from the adulterer, according to the saying, the one who breaks faith, let the faith be broken in return. Second, the law granted both the divorced woman and the divorcing husband the right to enter a second marriage with another, but Christ denies this to both. Third, the law granted the right of certificate of divorce to the husband alone, but Christ in this right of marriage makes the husband and the wife equal, as the apostle teaches in 1 Corinthians 7:4. Some take fornication here to mean any sin, for this is a kind of spiritual fornication with some creature, having abandoned God, the creator and spouse of the soul. St. Augustine in Book 1 of On the Lord's Sermon on the Mount, and Origin here, Treatise 7, but this is too liberal and loose. Hence, canon law at chapter this on divorces, it was defined that divorce is not permitted for theft or any other crime. He continues to say, others take fornication to infidelity to God, for this is commonly called fornication by the prophets. But both interpreters, ancient and modern, commonly take fornication here in its proper sense as sexual immorality, which in a married woman is adultery. Therefore, by fornication here, understood adultery, sodomy, even with a spouse, but against their will. You will say it is permitted to divorce a wife if she tries to drag her husband into some crime. She goes on to explain, I guess. Now, I want to see that commentary in 1 Corinthians 7:4, but it's not out yet. Sorry, I'm getting caught up with this. You guys are distracting me in this TikTok chat. There's also, so you can read this commentary. There's also the commentary in the Haydock Bible. Let me see if I can find this online, actually, because I only have the print version. Damn it! All right, let me just go to it in the big Bible. Matthew chapter 5. Here it is. Let me go down to verse 31. So this is what's contained in the Haydock Study Bible. So Reverend Haydock says, he quotes, "Except the cause of fornication." He says, a divorce or separation as to bed and board may be permitted for some weighty causes in Christian marriages. But even then, he that marrieth her that is dismissed commits adultery. As to this, there is no exception. The bond of marriage is perpetual. And then he cites Matthew 19, I think. What God has joined, no power on earth can separate. The knot of marriage is so sacred a tie that the separation of the parties cannot loosen it. It being not lawful for either party to marry again upon a divorce, right? So the divorce being spoken of here, when it's talking about accepting cases for sexual immorality, is talking about the separation. It's talking about the separation of the couple. So like they don't have to live together anymore. They can be separated. They cannot share a bed, but in the eyes of God, the marriage has not been dissolved. Hence why Christ says that if you marry a divorced woman, you commit adultery, right? Compare that to the teaching on marrying a widow, right? A woman whose spouse has died. When you marry a widow, you do not commit adultery because of the fact that death is the only thing that can dissolve that marriage. And so if the divorce here was actually something that dissolved the marriage, then marrying a divorced woman would not entail adultery. I hope that makes sense. There is no divorce, only separation. True. Is life yapping in the chat still? Okay, let me see what Ayo was saying. Yeah, you can also say that resting and dwelling and mutual love all denote a condition. Okay, yeah, so the thing about this definition, Ayo, is when he says that is that by which, it's the fact that he says that by which, so it seems like he's talking about a nature, but he also says that it's that by which, where is it? The Father and Son reveal the Spirit. And my question is, like, what do you mean this seems to be temporal, because what do you mean that's revealing the Spirit? Is there some eternal act of revealing? Yeah, the Haydock Study Bible is really good. The issue is it's also expensive. So if you have $150, then it's honestly worth it. It's honestly worth it. Yeah. But it's an eternal act of revealing. And this is what Bryce J says. Bryce J is even more confusing to me than Nick's. Eternal manifestation is a non-causal relation in the Trinity between the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit that represents the inner operations and the perichoretic relation between all three persons. The simple formula is that the Father eternally gives the Spirit to the Son by resting the Spirit in the Son. And so that the Son can eternally manifest the Spirit internally and externally. Yeah. And I was the thing, why was this message retracted? Why was Way Truth in Lines message retracted? Cynical, I'm gonna add you as a mod because you're a real one. Ayo, I don't know why you don't have a mod. I don't know why it doesn't let me give you one. Crumbs 2. Why can't I? Hey, bro, I'll add Jaws Moss later, bro. Yeah. You mod Logic? Oh, damn. I know you was famous. Okay. I removed the comment? Okay, just making sure. So, any more questions? Yeah, that was a confusing definition, especially because I don't think it explains, like, the through the Son thing. It feels like the whole notion of the Spirit being through the Son is kind of thrown out by that definition. I also got Edward Shensky's here. Spirits manifesting their common nature. All this stuff. That's good, Cynical. I'm glad you're a viewer. What do they mean by internally and externally? I think Bryce J was just yapping. Have you read this paper, Ayo? Have you read this Against the Filioquist by Bryce J? Hey, bruh. This stuff might be better than... It might be better than Photius' stuff, bruh. For reals. It might be the best work Against the Filioque I've ever read. OSRS. Your yap? Yeah, I think it was a long time. Unless you drop some new stuff. I think I seen it. Now that one was probably the best one. Do you study topically or you thug it out, read through? So sometimes I study topically. More recently, I've been reading more spiritual works. Honestly, that's low key the more important thing, bro. Like the theology is cool, the study is cool, you know, the knowledge is cool, but without like your spiritual life, all that is vain, bro. Without the spiritual life, all that's in vain for real. So I've been reading through this one, a classic. I read The Imitation of Christ. This one's really good. I really like this one. Right now I'm on chapter 23, 23rd chapter. Yeah, bro. Learning about the formal constitute of the divine nature, is that what you're gonna say? Yeah, it's not gonna pay the bills. The practical stuff is really where it's at. Honestly, you get this right, you get the spiritual stuff right, you might as well be a genius, bro. That's the true wisdom. What up? What up? Any other questions? Cause how long we been live for, bro? Might be time, bro. Let me text Light. Let's see what Light up to, bro. The Imitation of Christ by Thomas A. Kempis. Yes, really good. It's a really good work. You missed everything, yeah, you did, bro. We even had Elijah on here. He was spitting some infallible declarations. He was spitting some ex cathedra statements. For a second. Didn't Light want to study a little with you, Abe? He ain't tell me that. I don't know. Some of these apologists are debating to win arguments, not to win souls. Yep. No, my main issue with some of these apologists is the ones that know more about the religion they're polemicizing, if that's even a word, the religion that they're doing polemics against, than their own. Light just ended his live. That is what really irks me, bro. But Lord have mercy on us. Any other questions? Why does it have no thumbnail, bro? Everyone gets their stuff from Light. Hey, if they get their stuff from Light, they in good hands, bro. For real. Rich apologist? Yeah, that's a joke. The title's a joke, bro. Alright, bro. Y'all got 5 minutes to ask your final questions. Hold on. Someone send me a TikTok. So, my girlfriend has been doing this thing recently where anytime she sees a video that's like anti-Christianity, she'll send it to me and then she wants me to respond to it so she can learn from it, I guess. She just sent me this video right here.
My mom died like 2 days ago, and I just don't know what to do. Just give your life up to God. God will fix all your problems. Like, if you give your life up to God, then maybe, like, this would not have happened. Bro, my dog died. Like, oh my God. my grandma got cancer, man. I can't do this no more, bro. See, if you were praying, this would not have happened. Give your life up to God and make sure you worship Him like no other, okay? My mom died.
And it's titled How It Feels to Tell Your Problems to Overly Religious People. There ain't no refutation to that. We're cooked. So she wants me to specifically answer this comment. Does that look reversed for you guys? I know you guys can't see it on TikTok because you guys are cooked. It basically says my dad was murdered, and I hate when people tell me God has his reasons. There's a reason for it. Like what? So what should we respond? How should we respond to this? Duet it and cook him? All that morning is up me jit? Alright, bruh. Hold on. Yo.
Are you getting on?
Yeah, I'm getting on after this stream. I'm about to end it.
Okay.
But I have to respond to this TikTok Allah sent me.
Was it the one where it's just like, oh my uncle died, that type of stuff, bruh?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, the comment says, I hate when people tell me that he has a reason. How should we respond to this? Okay. So, obviously, I'm going to just quote what St. Augustine says. I would say, as St. Augustine says, God would not allow anything evil to occur if he did not plan to bring forth some good. Thus, even while from our perspective it might seem impossible for any kind of good to arise from such horrific evils, because God is all powerful, he can bring forth good things from even the worst evils. And because God is all-knowing, and perfectly good, everything he decides to allow or not allow he has justified reasons for. Is that good, chat? Or is that heresy?
That's amazing, actually. Sprinkle in a little bit of the Filioque in there, by the way.
And because the Spirit proceeds from both, as from the will, God's
Yeah.
will is eternal.
Yeah. No. Keep going. Keep going. Wait.
Bruh. Alright. So the question is, what reason? The response is, as St. Augustine says, God would not allow anything evil to occur if he did not plan to bring forth some good from that evil. Thus, even while from our perspective it might seem impossible for any kind of good to arise from such horrific evil, because God is all powerful, he can bring forth good things from even the worst evils. And because God is all-knowing and perfectly good, everything he decides to allow or not allow, he has justified reasons for. All right. All these arguments, they're just really just appeal to emotions, bro. Now, I've never seen a Christian say, hey, if you would have prayed more, maybe your uncle wouldn't have got slimed.
No, I don't know about you. I've said that before.
Now, wait for what? Um, throw something about purgatory in there too. I don't know. That's a good idea, bro. Abe is a proper fisher of men. Thanks, bro.
Are you also able to show that Augustine taught the filioque at all?
Was I able to show?
Are you able to at all?
Why are you asking me this, bro?
I don't know. I'm kind of doubting that Augustine taught the filioque.
Nah, this man capping.
Kind of having doubts about it.
Are you being for real? Or are you joking with me?
No, I'm being for real. I think he just taught eternal manifestation.
Oh my god. Alright, bro. I don't know if you're being for real, bro. Crumb said you have to say I don't know and pivot to incarnation to satisfy emotional arguments. I don't know, Crumbs. I don't know. I've seen these tactics before. The aloneness argument and randomness objection. I guess you'd have to. People say aloneness argument, like it depends on the kind of argument they present. Like I need to see.
What's the aloneness argument, by the way?
So I can't recall like the specific formulation. That I guess the popular one that's used. Let me look it up real quick. I have like some vague idea of it in my mind.
And did you really pay for Claude?
Hell no.
How are you using it then?
I don't know. It's just I thought it's free. I got the free version.
Bruh, they said I gotta pay for it.
I hope I'm not paying for this. Frick.
They're stealing money from you as we speak.
Yeah, how can God be alone if pure act? I mean, yeah, that's just like super overly simplified. So this is what if God's knowledge is either wholly intrinsic to God, wholly extrinsic to God, or intrinsic to God in some respect, but extrinsic to God in others. Again, my whole issue with this argument is that I feel like once we distinguish between the act of knowing and the object of that knowledge and like things that are known in themselves and through another, then all this falls apart because it kind of just collapses everything into just God's knowledge. Necessarily God contingently has some knowledge. This premise, I don't even think we wouldn't even say this premise is false. P5, I'm looking at Joe Smith's argument, by the way. Ayo. This P5 would be false. Bro, whenever I told a Muslim P5 would be false, he spazzed out, bro. Because I showed him he was like, Aquinas don't say that, or St. Thomas don't say that, and I showed him St. Thomas saying that God necessarily knows contingent things. But Blood's getting scammed, don't even know it? Nah, bruh. Yeah, bro, we're popping, bro. We're big now.
How many people you got in the YT?
23, bro.
Amen. That's what I like to hear, bro. You need to go live more often, bro. Please.
God contingently has wholly intrinsic knowledge. I mean, I don't even want to go through this. Yeah, exactly, Ayo. What's premise 1? This, I don't even want to think about what this means, bro. God's knowledge is either wholly intrinsic, or intrinsic. I think we're going to say it's wholly intrinsic, just based on how these words are usually mean. God's knowledge is wholly extrinsic or intrinsic to God in some respects, but intrinsic in others only if God doesn't exist alone. So if there are creatures, then God's knowledge is either wholly extrinsic or partly extrinsic. I don't even think that's the case. We would say his knowledge is still wholly intrinsic if we're talking about, again, the object that's known. And even if we're talking about the act of knowing, because the object that's known is his own essence. So I think we would reject this premise too. I think we would reject 5 too, because we say God necessarily knows contingent things. The randomness one, I don't think is that. At least the one that Juju responded to in his video, that one seems pretty dookie. No one will understand grief until they have to go through it, but God is close to the broken heart and crushed spirit. Yeah, true. I mean, that's true. And like, bro, you telling someone that if they didn't pray more, than the God wouldn't got slimed, then their uncle wouldn't got slimed out, bro. It's crazy work.
That's low-key a little disheartening. I'm not gonna lie.
And people, I feel like the reason people don't want to hear that.
I just don't know what to do. Just give your life up to God. God will fix all your problems. Like, if you give your life up to God, then maybe like it's not happening. Bro, my dog died. Like, oh my God, he had cancer too.
They're making it a joke, but it's actually true. Like, you just submit your will to God, and you will find peace. Like, and I have actual experience of this. Like, hold on. I had a cousin long ago who they were checking to see if he had cancer or something. And they were really he was really upset and really afraid because he thought he was going to die, right? And it was that I was telling him, like, hey bro, you got to give your life to God. You got to, you got to get right with God, all this stuff. And you can't hear him, whoever you're talking to, then they can't hear you. Like, I don't even know how to fix that. How do you make the people on TikTok hear you on YT?
You gotta ask Eli, because he knows this technical stuff better than I do.
Nah, whatever. Like, not really saying nothing for real anyways, bro. You're not missing.
I'm just down the Filioque, that's all.
Oh my gosh. I'll show you right now, dog. So, I told him you gotta give your life to God, and he did so, and he found peace. Like, so why are you? If it works, it works, bro. Like, why are you clowning it? If it works. So what on earth you read from St. Augustine that made you doubt he's teaching the Filioque way, bro?
No, I'm just talking. I'm low-key just chatting. I'm not gonna lie. Because I've said it before, bro. Saying St. Augustine doesn't teach the Filioque. It's like actually, like, the R word. I can't say it, but.
Yeah, because I mean, he explicitly says that the Spirit has essence from the Son, but of him from whom he proceeds, and of whom he has essence, and of whom he has knowledge, from whom therefore he has hearing. What does the Bible say that he has hearing from? John 16:15, Bible Hub. Let's go over to. It's not even this one. I think I don't know if it's before or after. Whatever he hears, he will speak. I have many things to say to you. You cannot hear them. You cannot bear them now. However, the Spirit of truth, he will guide you into all truth. For he will not speak of his own authority, but whatever he hears, he will speak. He will glorify me, for he will take what is mine and declare it to you. And I'm pretty sure that Augustine in this passage, he's not himself. He shall speak what he hears from him. He proceeds. Yes, the one he's hearing from is the Son. And it says of him who he has essence. More nuanced. Bro, Ayo know the quotes, bro. This man Ayo know the quotes, man. Ayo just don't want to admit it, bro. Ayo, you just gotta admit it, bro. Let me just word search it. Hey, eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord, bro. Pray for Seeking's grandpa. Nah, don't send me none, Ayo, bro. Ayo trying to give a Shubha, bro. We not taking that, bro. I'm just kidding.
Wait, is that Chrysostom?
No,
Or who was that?
that's Cyril.
I can't see the full thing.
Yeah, 'cause I zoomed in on it.
Damn.
I can do this.
Damn. Wait, go back. Let me see that. Wait. Move it a little bit to the right. Just a little bit, just a little bit.
To the right?
Yeah, to the right.
You mean to the left, bro? What you got? What you need to move?
Okay,
That?
yeah, that's yeah.
See, I
a little
moved it to
more,
the
just
left.
a little bit more.
More?
Just a little bit, not too much. More. Okay, yeah, that's good. I actually just want to read the quote.
What?
I just want to read the quote. I just want to read it.
Alright, look at this.
Damn, that's crazy. Bro, that's actually crazy. What the hell?
What did bro send me? She, the Spirit, is of God, and the Father, indeed, also the Son. The Spirit proceeds from both. But if this were so, the Father cannot have the Spirit proceeding through himself. Through both. To then his Holy Spirit comes from the Father, being by his by nature. I don't know, bro. I gotta look at this, bro. Because when you say that the Spirit is through him because he is consubstantial with him, I mean, are you saying that's the reason why the Spirit is through him? Because that wouldn't even be wrong. Like, that's not contrary to the Lamb view. Well, wait, because the Son, is consubstantial with him, the Father? Is that what that means? I gotta look at this later, bro. Thanks for sending me this, though. This is good info. Alright, so I guess none of you guys have any more questions, I don't think. You went away from Mike. Alright, bro. You getting on, bro?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
You need to download more games, by the way.
Yeah, I understand. I'm gonna look at those later, more fully, because I was just kind of speeding through them. But thank you guys for watching. We're playing Rivals. We're gonna be in Elijah's Discord. If any of you guys want to join in on Rivals, we're trying to get trying to get Light to level 15, bruh.
So that we can play rank, guys.
Yes.
Guys, I'm so close. I'm a level 11.
All right, guys. God bless you. Thank you for watching. You guys are the best. You guys are goated. I'll talk to you guys next time. Love you, Ayo.